Watch this.
Oh, hallelujah.
Get up right now.
I'm hearing something real powerful for someone. And now listen to this. Hallelujah. Sent that man that reaching out to hurting people. Hallelujah.
This is what you do.
Something more than it was. Yes. Listen to this right here.
I heard then, it was like the Lord spoke that through me then. Oh, there it is. Get up right now.
There it is again. Hallelujah. Hands up. Sent that man that reaching out to hurting people. Hallelujah.
This is what you do.
Something more than it was.
I like that, don't you?
Make a vow. Make a vow.
Amen.
Make a vow. Make a vow. Get up right now.
There it is again, so strong.
Oh yes.
Sent that man that reaching out to hurting people. Hallelujah.
This is what you do.
Something more than it was. Amen.
Oh boy, was that
Good morning,
fun.
everybody.
Hey, how did I get here?
Hubaba Kanda.
What?
Who is that? Who is
That is
that?
that is a televangelist by the name of Robert Tilton.
Robert
Robert-
Tilton.
Robert Tilton is all over the YouTubes. He's
Okay.
on the YouTubes. Well, he's one of them faith healer people, you know.
Well,
Prosperity
I
gospel.
got that, but I
Folks,
just didn't.
you know.
It's funny. I never recognized him. Is he a northerner?
Well, I don't know.
He might be. He's been around. He's been around for decades.
No, I think he's
Okay.
from the
Been
south.
around for
I think he's from the
decades.
south. Yeah,
That
been around for
accent
decades.
doesn't exactly scream northerner, but
Well,
No,
no.
no,
I guess what I'm saying is like, so being from the Bible Belt that as I am, I'm so familiar with so many other on-screen televangelist talents. And
Dude, this guy was big in the '80s. Okay.
yeah,
So-
he's.
Like,
I've
this
so
is
heard
really
back
the
back when
80s.
Jimmy
Yeah.
Swaggart was the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Jimmy Swagger, Baker,
Jim Baker.
yeah, and all
yeah.
that mess.
Oh.
Falwell, all that.
Have you
stuff.
seen Jim Baker lately?
I have, man. He doesn't look at all like what he used
He
to.
does not, and he definitely. I think he remarried, and it's
He did,
really.
yeah.
But and what a bizarre show he has now.
Well, you know, Tammy Faye wound up leaving him,
Yeah.
and
That is a sentence. Hold on.
Well, he lost everything.
I
He
just
did,
need a
and went
moment
to
to
jail for 5
process the
years.
phrase.
Yeah.
Tammy Faye wound up leaving him.
right,
That
yeah.
might be the most '80s tie-in set. Wow. Last time
Yeah.
I felt like this, we were trying to figure out who shot Jr.
I went
Oh
on a,
my
I went,
Hey!
on a, I went on a
Hey,
stupid,
yeah, let's do that.
dude. I went on a stupid trail the other day,
I love it.
just
so good.
just soaking up the Jim and Tammy Faye drama,
Yeah,
the old drama, just because I think I think you can learn from those things, you know,
Oh, yeah.
and I see us repeating that because you see all these megachurch pastors kind of having their issues these days, but yeah, so I was in the process of we were talking about that, and I started telling my daughter about Robert Tilton, and I was like, yeah, he's the farting pastor, you know, he's got those videos where he like does that, and like they put the fart noises in there. It's really funny. And I found Hubaba Kanda. And I'm like, oh man, this is, and here's the thing, I don't know who made this thing.
Oh, I was gonna say, did you make
That is
this
my,
sound?
no, that is my
good.
jam, dude. That is, I'm telling you,
Well,
that is.
I have certain sensibilities and compassion for folks because that's how I grew up, and so like I definitely was very much into the charismatic stuff.
I
growing
grew up
up.
in that. I grew up in
And-
that too, but
And it's like
don't
there's
have
part of me
any-
that the part of
don't
me
have
that's
any
just like,
compassion.
oh, it hurts my feelings to see this stuff, and
No.
on the other hand, it's like part of like I feel so conflicted. Like I feel like I'm being made fun of, but then I'm like, wait a minute, no.
No, man, this guy's stealing millions of dollars from people.
Oh, I know.
This dude
I
has
know.
stole millions of dollars.
I know it.
This
I
dude
know
is
it.
a crook and a
And
charlatan.
was it? Is
Oh,
it?
I'm sorry. I
Matt,
had to jump.
Osteen.
Is it Mike Murdoch? He's another one.
Oh man, yeah, there's so many of them. There's so many of them out there. And,
Oh, dude, I don't remember who it was, but just about a week ago, one of these televangelists. I'm trying to. Okay, one of these fellas went out and said, "Well, the reason Jesus has not returned
Oh boy.
is that we have not donated enough to my church."
oh my gosh, that sounds like something. Something that. Who's that demon guy with the planes?
Osteen. No, it's not
not
Oh.
Osteen. Osteen's a
Kenneth
No, he's-
Copeland.
Kenneth
Or
Copeland. That guy.
Creflo Dollar. Pick
Creflo
one.
Dollar.
Clefo Dollar. The Clefo
I mean, the fact
Dollar
that his
Power
last
Hour.
name's Dollar.
No,
is like,
here's
come on.
come on. It's like when people complained about, I gave money to Cecil in that cash grab and I never got my book.
Yeah.
Dude,
He's so not cat.
come on. I'm like, it's in the name. Like, come on. It's like, I can't believe he was stealing money. His name is Dollar. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
A preacher with the name Dollar. I mean, I'm like, come on. I mean, I've been in the ministry for a while. Y'all know that. And yeah, I got no
Really?
compassion.
Oh man,
Yeah,
I have no.
I got no
idea.
compassion for that
no
stuff.
idea.
I got no compassion for those.
Well, no, the
for that type of
compassion that
living.
I have is for the the speaking in tongues and all the other stuff that kind of comes with
Well,
it. I'm just talking
well,
about.
I'm not saying that stuff
that are
ain't real.
swept up in
Yeah, I'm
in
not
the,
saying that
the
stuff ain't real.
theatrics of it. And
But what I am saying is this: if you're in the theatrics,
Yeah.
you can open your eyes and step out of it, which is
Yeah.
what I did. Okay,
Yeah.
I was in it and realized this is poppycock, and
Yeah.
I got up out of there. Right. You can do that. Now there's this whole thing, this whole movement, and I don't want to get on this morning, but there's this whole thing about deconstruction of your faith, where people are deconstructing their faith and they're having moments where they step away from the faith altogether. I'm not about that, okay? I'm about understanding your faith better.
So it's like a hedonist Rumspringa, right?
Rumspringa, yeah.
Rumspringa. It's like a
Rumspringa.
Ooh.
That's yeah. So yeah, that's
Wow.
isn't that a fun concept?
Yeah. It's like Carnival, kind of, or Fat Tuesday, with the Mardi Gras.
Yeah, oh man, I love
It's
that.
like sin your hardest the day a day before.
Dude, when
they
I
put
found
ashes on your forehead.
So I did not grow up in a church that followed that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So the first time I served at church, they had a big pancake dinner on Fat Tuesday, right? So they had this huge pancake dinner, and it was and then I learned the concept of what Shrove Tuesday is and all of this stuff, and I'm like, well, this is I didn't get this growing up. This is fun. It's like I didn't realize the Bible gave way for this. It doesn't.
And see, it's like I got ripped because I was raised Catholic, but I was raised TV Catholic because my dad, my father, whom I love, is a PTSD vet, and he wasn't comfortable being in a close room with people behind him for long periods of
I
time.
can understand that. I'm not
So
a
we
PTSD.
we chased
vet, I don't
Randy
like
off.
that.
So what we did is we ended up watching Mass from Mercy Home, which is an orphanage in Chicago, and they still do. Every day, every Sunday, they sit down and they watch Mass from Mercy Home. And the thing is, their budget was so low, they didn't have. They had like one really, really high pitched guy who tried to sing. He still does. Bless his heart, he tries. I mean, I don't know.
And those
but
chants.
joyous noise.
Man.
Oh, like I can't even. He gets up here, and then he like squeaks. Anyway, and it would just be like you'd here's some Old Testament stuff, here's some New Testament stuff, here's how to relate it. The end.
The end.
I mean, like, well, you have the old call and response stuff, the Catholic shtick.
Yeah. I think the Catholic shtick.
Well, I mean.
We're really not trying to harsh on these religions.
Oh
but
no, I take.
it's all shtick, but
Well, yeah.
I digress.
I only.
You might not be trying to.
Well,
I just
here's the thing. I tease because I've been in. Really, I mean, I love Jesus with all my heart.
Yeah.
I'm not good with dogma, and I'm not good with other people talking to the boss when the boss said I can talk to him.
Absolutely.
And that's
Yes.
the majority of my
There you
issue.
go.
I don't
There you
like
go.
players. When you have the privilege to talk to the creator of the universe, and sometimes I'll admit I get like performance, like stage fright. Sometimes I don't know if that ever happened to you, where it's like,
well, that's
I done
got performance issues.
I got to talk to the boss, sir. I don't mean to bug you, but I'd like to talk to you for a bit.
I also don't like when people when they think they got special revelation. Here's the thing I tell people: if somebody tells you the Bible's so complex it's hard to understand, they want you to think it's so complex it's hard to understand. Like that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to make it that way, so they can fool you, just like these TV. But anyway, I found that video. I thought it'd be pretty funny.
Oh yeah,
and, it was.
That was awesome, and
it gets me dancing. Baba Conda. Yeah.
Should have bought a Honda, but I bought a Mitsubishi.
Right. Oh, there you go.
All right, that's my putting a button on this whole thing.
Yeah, I had this pastor that used to go, and it was always the same one, Shaka Pusande.
Oh wow!
And every time I heard the Shaka Pusande, I knew he was about to go barking. I was like, oh, he's about to go barking right now, and he did. I mean, he get the you know what the bark's from, right? It's because you're trying to suck in that air real fast, and you're
ventilate.
Yeah, basically it's what it is. Because you get yourself all worked up. Speaking of getting all worked up, last Saturday, I had some Jehovah's Witnesses show up at my door.
Oh boy, those are fun.
Oh man, I love talking about the
Randy's
laughing because he knows it's like.
So let me ask you.
Buddy,
Were
You
they
have no
preaching
idea.
Jesus to you? Because down here, they'll come and they've decided to start preaching Jesus when they knock
Yes.
on the doors.
Yes. And here's where I get them, right? Because, well, those of you here in this panel and some in the chat know that my area of expertise is not comic books.
No, that's Randy's.
Wait,
That's Randy's area of expertise.
you're my
area of
artist. What?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
just
So
kidding.
as much as I know about comics, it is not my area of expertise.
Yeah.
My area of expertise is theology, primarily because of seminary, right? And that's my education. So it's always funny when comic book people like try to like when they come like, hey, let's talk about the Bible. I'm like, I don't really want to do that with you. You know, it's like I'm not trying to be the morality hall monitor here. I'm done with that. You know, that kind of thing. But yeah, who wants to do that, right? I want to be like, I call yellow card, no red card. You know, I'm not doing that stuff.
Blasphemy
Right?
on the field.
Right? Yeah, I've got a yellow flag, throwing it out there. I'm like, that's not my shtick, okay? But so this fella, a guy, and a little kid brought a little kid with him, and the little kid's trying to talk to me, right? And so as they're talking to me, they start bringing up Jesus, and I mention I've got like the Book of John on Rolodex in my head because it's like got tons of theology in there, right? So so you guys are gonna love this story. So I know what they believe. I probably know what they believe better than what those guys believed, right? What they knew they believed. And so I'm sitting there and I'm waiting for them to bring up Jesus, right? And so as soon as they bring up Jesus, I go, yeah, you know, really we've got to focus on him because he's the way, the truth, and the life, he says in John. And he agreed on the verse in John where Jesus says, I'm the way, the truth, and the life, that no man can come to me but through the Father, right? He agreed on that verse. And I was like, oh, you just messed up. So I was like, he agreed on that verse, right? Now, they don't believe that Jesus is God. They believe he's a prophet and some other stuff about a spaceship. And I wish I were making that up. I'm not making that up. Some other stuff about a spaceship. And so when he agreed to that, I was like, okay. So we got talking. I was like, you know, I don't really have, you know, he wanted to sit down for 5 minutes. I said, I don't have 5 minutes, but do you have 30 seconds for me to pray for you? And he goes, no, I can't let you do that. And I'm like, well, why not? And I said, now let's have a conversation. So why can't you let me pray for you? He goes, well, because we know that most Christians, they believe that Jesus is God. And I was like, oh, well, hold on a second. You agreed that in the book of John, it says God, that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life, right? And he goes, yes. And I said, well, you know how that book starts out, right? It says, he says that in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, that all things were created through him and by him, and that without him nothing was created, right? And he said, yeah. And I said, and then it says that Word was made flesh and dwelt among us, and that's Jesus, right? And he's the way, the truth, and life. You've already agreed to that. So you have to agree to the stuff that came before it, okay? So if you agree on that, you have to agree with the other stuff that led up to that statement, right? So that means Jesus is God and that he created you and I and everything around us. So why won't you let me offer a prayer of protection for you today in the name of the Creator? And he started to argue with me, and I'm like, I don't really want to argue. So I just went, Jesus, I pray right now in your holy name. And I just start praying for him. And by the time I open my eyes, these guys are running. He's got this kid in tow, and they are running down my driveway.
Well, yeah, you might change the kid's mind.
Right. But the whole time the kid's like, you know, he keeps looking up at the dude, keeps looking back at me, and he's like looking back. And I'm like, hopefully this kid saw this interaction as, you know, is like, whoa, hold on a second. There's some truth in the scripture, you know, and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. So
No, Glenn, you're not on the wrong channel. It's just what
running.
happened in part is, and I knew that there'd be some people getting a little uncomfortable by this. People forget that Luke's a pastor primarily. That is his mission. And as Luke sort of is in this phase where he's shifting toward a more...
You don't have to apologize for me, Nick.
No. I want to explain.
Yeah.
Because I have this thing where people forget.
I need no explanation.
And and when Luke says he doesn't care, that means he doesn't care about anybody or anything when it comes in the way of saying his what's on his mind or heart.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to get to comics.
Comics is next. Comics is next.
Well, we also have to lay that deconstructionist foundation anyway, and so it's good that we talk about
Because
deconstructing your
He's
faith,
getting there.
and to
Because that's part of
so
what we're
many
talking about
people,
today.
and to so many people, which is kind of funny. I listened to Rob Liefeld's podcast called Robservations, and he did an entire episode called the Church of Comics.
Yeah.
And what he's talking about is how people, in a way, they kind of, with a certain religious fervor, kind of like gather around comics as a means to, deal with things in life, and they kind of as an escape and as a way to have a congregation, like have other people, fellow fans and whatnot. And so he draws that comparison, does a really good job with that, and so it's kind of There are people who worship at the feet of these heroes that we're talking about, in ways that they probably shouldn't, or in other ways that they probably should. So this is great.
But see, this is great because anybody who had a chance to watch Nevermind the Furthermore yesterday, that's usually an hour show, hour and a few minutes. It went 2 hours.
Oh wow.
Nice.
Because we got on the topic of bias and changes that people have been doing and why affecting the canon affects people so much.
Right.
And the thing is, a lot of people, when you've been reading a comic and it's shape or anything, you look at the franchises with history, your Star Treks, your Star Wars, your Marvel comics, especially right now, where people have been hearing these stories. They are literally the mythology. If not religious, it is a mythology and literal folklore of our culture.
Yeah.
And that, when people suddenly truncate and change, well, we're going to change for a gimmick, or we try to force an ideal, whether the ideal is correct or not, it's a separate process to it being a threat. Because you're saying everything you've read and studied doesn't matter. Everything you know about a character that's influenced you doesn't matter. And that's why they get the pushback. It's not that I find, because I talk to a lot of guys, and so I will genuinely say some are racist, bigoted, whatever you want to say. I know those people. They're in comics. I know them. And I know some people who are that way for different origin, different alignments, for lack of a better word. It's possible to only think the other extremes. But we went into an in-depth conversation on bias and diversity in comics and rewriting canon. And what I referenced then, which gets me in trouble sometimes, was I was not happy about Doctor Who becoming a woman. And the reason I was not happy about it was when I was raised, heroes were only allowed 3 emotions: pride, anger, and arousal. If you think about the 80s and the heroes in the 80s, they were either proud, they were either furious, or they were horny. And I hate to put it that way,
It's
but
true.
that's really...
It's true.
And that was across the board. Everybody was like that. It's why I got...
That was the scope of every male character.
Right. Now,
In the
the
80s and
only
early 90s.
exceptions you'd find are mysteries allowed for intelligence, because that sort of offset a lot of the physical heavy lifting for the kind of stat. And then Doctor Who did something really weird. He cared. He tried to be kind, and shock, gasp, horror, he would look at a situation and go, I physically cannot deal with this right now. I'm going to run away, make a plan, and come back. There's nobody, look across the board, nobody had enough critical thinking to go, there's an army with laser guns pointed at me. I'm going to go over here till I can find somebody I can talk to do something about it. They'd have to run in and
there is an exception. There is an exception to that. Han did run away
Right,
when he
right.
ran into the, he turned around and he turned tail and went, man.
Yeah,
Well,
but
I think what you're saying is that there's a certain level of heart that
Yes,
Yeah.
that
there's
Doctor
heart,
Who
but
has.
to not lose my point,
Mhm.
it was a male. Now,
Yeah.
if you go back to the 80s, again, when I grew up, the early 90s, the characters that had emotions that were capable of kindness, empathy, uh, actually giving a dang about people were all the female characters. A man could not be depicted having caring, just could not be depicted caring. And caring about his enemies. I'm sorry, we were talking about Christianity, and it's kind of one of those hang-ups about loving people like you're supposed to love each other. That's one of our things. And ironically, for a long time, the only character who tried to do that, I'm not saying succeeded, but tried, was the Doctor in Doctor Who. So he was the only male that represented that at the time where where we need more compassionate characters. We need men who feel.
I
who are
think
allowed
Optimus
to
Prime
feel.
embodied that as well, though.
Yes, in the
Optimus
cartoon.
Prime in the
In the
cartoon.
Oh
cartoon
yes,
specifically.
yes.
Embodied that as
Optimus-
well.
Definitely. I'm glad you
And-
brought him
and-
up because definitely not in that second Star Wars movie. Oh my gosh,
Right.
the second Transformers movie, and
Well-
I definitely want to get into that after a while.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into this because there is a deconstructionism
And
that's
that's
happening everywhere. They've done it to
Well,
Doctor
see,
Who.
here, I
They've
saw-
done it to they've done it to
and that's
Optimus
what they
Prime.
did by what they did by making Doctor Who female is they took the one primary, and yes, I'm seeing examples in the comics from the 60s, and frankly the 60s were a more compassionate time than the 80s in
Yeah.
literature. That's why I'm talking about, you know, and I consider film, I consider comics, I consider books, I consider it all literature because it's all the fiction that moves our worlds. It's the mythologies, that's where it lives. And if people have a problem with that, they may take a long walk at the nearest short dock they could find. But, you know, I'm not wishing ill on them, but I'd like to go swimming, so I'm totally comfortable inviting you to. But during peak 80s, you know, there is such a thing that, you know, you want to see what toxic masculinity looks like, and it's fun. I'm not saying it's not fun. Most toxic things are. But when the solution to every problem is an M60 machine gun, not that I have any bashing about on M60 machine guns, but you know, so when you want, so the thing is, we want men. We don't like the way men are acting because they're blaming all men for the shooters who shoot stuff up, and while depicting us, at least all middle-aged men, as drunkard, sports obsessed leches who can't, you know, I watch TV. You take the one of the few icons who could, you know, be the example of what you want, and then oh no, we have to make him a woman. All that does is backdate everything. See, the whole
Well,
time, those are emotions that are
Another thing that happens is it's like dads in the 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s. Dads in TV shows were like Carl Winslow, loving, caring, compassionate, good guys, right? Good guys.
Mhm.
And then they started making them bumbling idiots,
Yes,
like
Homer
now,
Simpson. I mean,
Homer Simpson. Don't get me wrong, I do love Modern Family. I think it's hilarious.
Right.
But the dads in that they're all kind of silly.
Well, yeah.
You know, they're all kind of silly and hard to take serious. And they kind of do that, you know. It's like in the commercials, you know, you've got the guy hanging in the wife's out there is like, I did it, whatever. And you've got the guy back there hanging in the blinds, just kind of, you know, poor guy, he can't survive without any help. And we kind of see this thing happening. But there's definitely a deconstructionism that's happening in all these things.
We got a super chat here. I'm the real
Thank you.
Doctor Who. I mean, Doctor Hino.
No, Dr.
Ryan.
Yes, thank you for the $2 super chat.
Oh.
I appreciate it very much.
Rhino.
Very generous. Thank you very, very much. And so, yeah. So we've got the real Dr. Hino.
It's D. I think it's D Rhino, but
No, it's
Dr. Hino. Is it really Dr. Hino? 419. Yeah, he's cool.
I mean, he's a cool guy, but that's one of those.
Yeah.
Here I go pulling my Peter game again. Man, you got me all biblical right now.
Peter game.
You know, I'm the guy who will ask.
Is that code for something?
Yeah, really.
Is it Dr. Hino or is it D Rhino? I genuinely don't know, and I'll admit my ignorance to cure
I think
my
it's both. I think it's both and.
I think it's whatever you want.
Okay, if it's tongue in cheek like that, that is exceptionally groovy.
So
I think that's why he says Dr. Hino, because I think it originally is supposed to be D Rhino, but he it's,
all right,
it's
so get this.
Yeah.
So get this. Here's something that's happened. I think that people, especially in comics, fall into the deconstruction.
Yes.
I think, but here's
Yes.
why. I think they fall in to it's multiple choice. He says. I think they fall into this deconstructionism because they lack creativity.
Yes.
Let's take Superman for example. Why do they have to make Superman? Because here's the thing: Superman has got a major power set, right? He's not squishy at all.
No.
The dude punches, flies, all this stuff. In their world, in writing, it's like a hero graduates from saving people into fighting a supervillain. Okay, that is always you've arrived once you have a supervillain to fight, right? But what happens is in their writing, you get one brick and another brick fighting each other. They're immovable.
Yeah.
And try. It's fine. I've got that too. I've got here in this next book, we've got Trash Man going against Azazel. In fact, I've got a great picture that Chris Scaff painted for a cover for me.
Fantastic.
He's in the chat today. It was beautiful image.
Oh man,
That was amazing work.
wow, he's in the chat. Heck yeah.
I mean, very, very, very talented man. But it was this idea, like when you get them two titans going at each other, neither one of them are going to get hurt. There's not that.
There's no stakes.
Yeah, the stake of the hero dying is not there. Not like with Batman or somebody else that's squishy, right? So it's boring to write that without this kind of like massive, what do you call it? Like anime style, Dragon Ball style fights, right? That's interesting to look at. But without that, it's just two guys fighting each other with no real outcome, right? So that's hard for them to write because all they know is two guys fighting.
It's next to impossible for them to write and for them to write entertainingly.
Yeah. So let me before I forget, because if I go off this trail, I'll not make my point. So instead of writing something clever, keeping the power sets the way it is, and writing something clever where the stakes are saving people, and it's I've got this power set, but I can't accomplish everything. Make the conflict the choices, or make the conflict the puzzle that's out there instead of the bad guy. How do I do it rather than can I beat this guy up? Because there's not all. Now you've got tons of doomsdays. It was a big deal if there was a doomsday that killed Superman. But now it's like everybody's a doomsday. Everybody can go toe to toe with Supes, right? And so what they have to do is they have to deconstruct that character in order to write, because they don't have the sense or the cleverness to write a good story that doesn't include two guys punching each other.
There's a big difference between deconstruction and tearing down, though. They're big. I think the big problem, and this goes back to our previous discussion, is that these folks can't grasp Superman at his current power level and understand his character, because Superman grew up in the Midwest. He grew up under hardcore morality values that he upholds, and in most of these writers' minds, that turns him into a Boy Scout. or makes him like a wackadoo, like what Miller tried to write him in Dark Knight, instead of actually understanding what a sense of ethics is,
Well,
and holding Superman to that. Superman's all powerful, probably too powerful at this point. He's got the power of a god. There's no challenge there. But the real challenge there is in his ethics, and that's something that a lot of these writers cannot address.
Well, it's like this. Have you ever seen Billy Madison, the movie Billy Madison?
Okay.
He's going up against this academic decathlon against this other guy in order to try to take his dad's company, right? Mm-hmm. And it comes down to one question: describe business ethics. And the guy gets stumped and has to pull a gun on Billy, right? Because that it's like that. In my mind, it's like that. They can't write these ethical characters because they lack ethics. Exactly. They lack the understanding of ethics.
I'm going to go farther than that. I believe that right now in America, and boy, Luke and I are nearly switching tables from normally how we talk. It's kind of funny here. Right. But I believe that there is an actual imperative to degrade certain types of ethics.
Yes.
And that's why
they don't understand it. They have to tear down certain ethics.
Right. They can't write a good guy being good because that acknowledges that goodness exists.
Yes.
And they're going to say, well, that makes him very flat. That makes him very... No, it really, really doesn't.
No, but it does in their limited mind, in their non-creative mind.
They have a lack of creativity.
Right. Well, there's also another thing happening under the surface here, is in their brain. In all of our stories, we're the hero. We're the good guys in our story. Now, I understand that I'm the bad guy in somebody's story. I'm the Thomas Boulder in somebody's story. I'm the Judas Rock in somebody's story. I understand this, and I'm okay with this. That's where you have to be. You have to learn to be okay with that, right? Now, for them, they're never the bad guy in anybody's story. They're always the good guy in their own mind. So they have to make the hero somehow mirror what they would do. Because if they're writing the bad guy to mirror something that they would do, then that means that they have the potential to be the bad guy in somebody's story, even their own story, and they can't have that. No. So they have to make the good guy mirror them,
right,
and the bad guy mirror the people that are opposite of them. So if that makes some sense there, because it's psychological thing
we have two problems, and I think we can break it down into two very clear chunks of what results in the problems. First is character erosion, and when I say character, I don't mean like this is so and so, this is their power set. No, I mean character as in the set of morals and identity and, who they are. And that's where you get things like the Hail Hydra BS out of Captain America.
Stupid.
That was
stupid choice.
That literally, but that's one route, right? The other one we have is the response to power creep. Because, and this is one I've spent what, a year
Can
and
I pause you for just a second? Don't lose track here. Think about, I just want to point out something. The idiocracy to take a character like Captain America, to make him say, hell, this is the guy that stood in front of Thor, and they said, hey, I'm a god. He goes, no, there's only one god, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like you.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he doesn't wear a cape, right?
Yep.
That the same guy
would
Hail Hydra?
Right.
No. I come on. That's character assassination.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes.
And that's
100%.
the erosion of the concept of things like, well, think about it. I want you to think. I'm going to use, combat capability, patriotism, morals, a rigid adherence to your moral beliefs. Am I describing a hero or am I describing a villain by modern terms?
Well, it all depends upon the competency of the writer.
Exactly. And the writers are incompetent. But the other thing that we need to talk about, because like I said, there are two things, is power creep. And when you're talking about, first they save people and then they get a supervillain. And it turns into a punch-up. That's when that is the first gap of when I stopped caring about a comic book character. I hate to put it that way, but when it always becomes, well, I'm doing this, and and I'm fighting so and so. Okay, you have a beef. My brain goes. That's why I switch over to, okay, you're that pragmatic. Just pull a Frank Castle, assassinate the dude and be done. Why is the Joker still living when it becomes about Batman fighting the Joker?
Right. Yeah.
At what point does it stop?
And
then he stops being a superhero and he's just a combatant.
I'm actually doing the reverse of what you've talked about.
I know you are.
In my stories, I'm starting with the big guy, and then we're going to move to saving normal people, like using our powers to save normal people, and not have to fight eternal demons.
Exactly. That's what's going to be great. But the next level from that gets things really worse for me is, and I'm sorry, Glenn. I know this is probably going to likely set you off. It might set Randy off. But when it starts to be the cosmic crossover event, and it's like the first few times it was done, it was an impressive thing. But when you get the scale so big, I really don't. Very rarely is, well, I'm going to save the world. The bad guy's gonna end the world. I'll go, this is fun, but I'm not invested because they're not going to blow up the world.
That's what I loved about Spider-Man comics.
Yeah.
Growing up, especially because a lot of people went time travel, they went cosmic, and yeah, it's fun sometimes, but you keep trying to outdo yourself and create a bigger threat, and eventually, the scope of threat is beyond our human comprehension, right?
Right.
So it's difficult to
do
that.
Whenever Spider-Man is pulled into the Avengers BS, who's keeping the bodega from getting robbed?
Right.
Because if the cops could do it, I hate to say it, but if the cops in the universe could do it,
then Spider-Man
why did they need Spider-Man?
Yeah. Right. But that's what I always loved about Spider-Man. It was always about saving people at the street level, and he would fight his supervillains, but those supervillains usually, what was at stake was society and was the community.
Yes, supervillain happens, and look at it. The supervillains in that are always doing like, nope, Spidey, guess what? I'm dropping the top of this building on that crowd. And Spidey every time chooses, I gotta save these people even if it makes me look like a yutz. Because that's what keeps the superhero. Yeah. Now the other thing, and this is coming because I've talked.
It's what keeps the hero in
right.
superhero.
It's what keeps the hero. It's that's the man that goes back to the morals. That's where
back to character.
It's about the man.
The four of us here in this room, we've all got
the other thing, and this is what I've done different game design, and I've recently turned down some because when I built the engine that is going to be in the Hybrid Core rulebook, I caught a lot of flack from people who've wanted to license in because I'm like, okay, there's a hard stop, but this much, yes, the mechanics have a built-in endpoint where as a character you can't get stronger than this. It's vastly more powerful than most humans, but there's a hard line where you can't go there.
Yes.
And I want to buff up, and I'm like, that's good, and you can, but you're not going to get higher than this.
Can't get higher than 40%.
And a lot of people have been coming at me, well, so and so can do this, and I'm like, and that's part of what's wrong with comics.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry, what part of it is you have to write Superman well, you have to write him intelligently using his abilities to solve complex problems. Because if you look the best Superman stories that were in film or anything, look at the Fleischman era Superman. The Fleischman comic cartoons, you can find them on YouTube. They're the original ones. They're what inspired the art style for Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
And again, look at Batman the Animated Series. Very grounded, very real. The stakes were, I don't want this person to get killed. I think a damaged city is something that we can visualize now. But you can't mentally get much bigger than that, where your brain just will not, it can't grasp the horror. unless you've experienced something like that, and then you have no desire to see it in fiction. I mean, I hate to put it that way, but so creators, and I see it because we plug a lot of comics. This time we're duking it out, and it's like, I love a good fight.
Oh yeah.
I love good fight choreography, but if it has no stakes and no change in outcome, it does nothing to advance the plot. It's just, either a gimmick to, well, we're doing this crossover and this guy are going to duke it out. Then you guys have become everything that you hate.
Right.
And I mean, I know that's a hard line to drop, unmerciful.
But it's astute observation. So here's the thing: the four of us in this panel right now, we were all dealt equally with one thing when we were born. It may not be resources. It may not be. I guess to our current culture, we're all born male and white. So I mean that's winning a genetic lottery right there. But let me say this:
it's still equal across us.
Yeah, but outside of that, we're all born with one thing, our character. And we decided as we grew up and by the influences that we had, what kind of character we were going to have.
Yeah.
And how we were going to build our character and how we were going to be perceived by other people. Mm-hmm. Character matters. Mm-hmm. And that's why it matters in these comic books. When they start to, one of the things that helped grow me as a young man were heroes that made the right choice every time. I loved the Incredible Hulk's TV show. There was never a supervillain that he had to fight. It was always some other thing, and the last resort was getting mad and punching, because that was the hardest part to control. Bruce Banner was the star of the Hulk TV show.
Well,
but
David,
it was always about... It was always
David.
David.
Yeah,
I'm
I
sorry,
just want to. Yeah.
Didn't want to call him Bruce. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
But the threat every week was people.
Right.
Yeah.
Was saving people. That was always the conflict, was saving people. And that ingrained in me that it doesn't matter how strong or powerful you are, if you're not using it to help people, that helped build my character. Reading Spider-Man helped build my character. Looking at these heroes the way they were helped build my character. Doctor Who, Kirk, Captain Kirk built my character.
Right.
Luke Skywalker, Ben Kenobi.
Yep.
These characters help create in me the desire to have a character to be a hero, to do the right thing. Now, I'm not a hero. I'm not out saving lives. But I can choose to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. And I can be someone's hero today if they need one. I can let my eyes be open and be aware if there's conflict that needs resolution, and I can do it. Use whatever tools I have to do it. And that's what we're missing. Because some people, every person across the board has the choice to determine what kind of character they're going to have. Mm-hmm. And that's why these comics are important, because they're our modern mythos.
Yes, and look, I can give two great examples, because there are two very short things I can lay. And one is, and I wish I knew the writer, but the Captain America speech, sometimes you have to put your back to the tree of truth, and no matter what anyone else says, you hold and you say no. It's one frame. It's one of the wordiest frames I hate to say I allow as good. Yeah. That to me is about the maximum wordiness you want.
Because the speech is good.
But
the writing was fine.
That's the no you move speech.
Yes, right? No you move speech. That one,
this far, no further.
Right, and that's what scares people, because there has to be a point where I believe in a certain set of things that are right and just. When you look up what it means to be honorable, it's to hold your ideals even though it's unpopular, unprofitable, or dangerous to do so.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And there are very few things I will allow myself to say about myself that's positive. But I am an honorable man through testing. And, that speech encapsulated what that meant. The other one I want to talk about is when Soups is talking to the suicidal girl. And he's flying there because he could catch her.
Yeah.
But that doesn't solve the problem. It would mute the problem, but she'd just come back tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day. And instead, he talks to her and walks her through. Ironically, there's a hilarious Deadpool version of it that has the same basic thing, but in a twisted way. We need that. When Batman is sitting with Ace after he's been assigned to kill her because her psychic abilities are going to destroy everything.
Mm-hmm.
And instead he goes, yeah, it's already done. But, and he sits with her and holds her hand on the way out. That's when you see actual heroism. Heroism isn't always physical conflict. It isn't simply holding the line. Heroism is getting up every day at 4, starting a fire and going to work because you love your kid. You want them to wake up to a warm house before they leave. Heroism can be sitting on the phone for hours with somebody who's not sure they can live till tomorrow because of what they're doing. That's a different kind of heroism. And we need the heroism of standing against a physical force and holding the line. But we need the heroism of enduring and building up. And if you want to write the comics that matter, and that's what we're coming up to. We're coming up to the choice.
Let me say this.
Are you going to write the comics that may sell and are kind of cool? Or are you going to write the kind of comics that at the end of the day, someone reading them?
I'm gonna bring up Marv's comment here, okay? Marv, great creator, has a book called The Sin Killer, an Arrow Comics title, by the way. So
nice.
Let's go Arrow Comics.
And available on the Rift Riders campaign in your little bundle you have.
Yes, it is.
Which is
available
fantastic.
The first issue is, yeah.
I'm gonna copy that, I think, in my campaigns.
Yeah, he's got a second issue.
Get more arrows.
Great guy.
Into people's hands.
So here's the thing. Marv thinks that the dark side of heroes is more interesting. But here's the whole subjective part of the art, right? It might be to you, but it might not be to someone else. And the problem is people that see the deconstruction and see that it's popular or whatever, they now are trying to do that across the board to everything. And they want to make it's like this. It's like I worked at a publisher that would only publish books they liked. And I said that's
you still do.
Yeah. Yeah, I still do, right? But right. But here was my problem.
I love it.
But here was my problem. He didn't do any horror. Like they didn't do any horror. They didn't do any. It was all basically superhero books, right? And I said, you realize some of these other books are good, even though they're not what you're into. It's not whether they're quantifiably well-written books or good stories or well-done sequentials. It is subjective it's not really something I would read, so I don't want to carry it. And I'm like, I said, I understand that, but this is good. This is quality. And this could, this, I mean, it may not be your forte, but it is still good. And it should be looked at. It should be, and that's the thing. People are trying to make everything just one note, what they like. And my point is that why is manga killing Western comics? Why? Because it is a buffet of choice.
Yeah, you have genre choice, you have writing style choice, you have aesthetic choice. You have a huge variety, and right now everything is so focused group to appeal to the majority that it's becoming so bland. There's no flavor, and yeah, you can have dark heroes. I mean, God, Constantine's one of my favorites.
Yeah.
But that only works, at least for me, if either it's an anti-hero who isn't really a hero, and it's a sort of catharsis. It's like watching the movie Falling Down, you know?
Oh yeah, really.
You get what I'm saying? That appeals. Or the better, and I do believe better, is when it's a hero who has to face their darkness and overcome it. You know, that's things like Superman's cardboard world speech.
Yeah.
Where
So today on Nerd Bacon, comic book speeches, great comic book speeches,
Right,
edited
we
by
really
Nick
should
Cocker.
do one on that sometime, just because.
The best monologues.
Heck yeah! Hey, only if I get to bring up the Dagny Taggart speech from Atlas Shrugged. Just kidding.
Yeah. There's some pretty cringy ones out there.
There's a lot of
Maybe
speeches
we'll do
in that
the-
book.
Well, yeah,
There's a
but-
lot
I
of
know it.
speeches
I
in
know
there.
it. I know it.
Well, I mean, and if you run it parallel with the Harley, there's some evil you can't just shoot racism in the face or whatever
So-
that horrible thing.
Let me say
was.
this. A lot of people, this is a very unpopular opinion for a lot of people. A lot of people love Neil Gaiman. They love Sandman. They love his writing. I have never liked him at all. He does not... his writing does not connect with me in any sense. And here's the thing. That's okay. I can still respect what he does and the fact that he's got people that enjoy it, but I don't have to also enjoy it. You know, it's fine. He can have his space, and I can
I
have
feel
my
the same
space.
about
Wait,
Alan Moore.
I'm shocked by something you're talking about here, Luke. Are you saying that tolerance is allowing others to enjoy stuff even if you don't enjoy it yourself, without being forced to try to claim that you do?
Right? Yeah. Tolerance
Is that
not
possible?
Yeah. Tolerance is. I mean, here I was told the other day. That the and this was in the church. Okay.
Yeah.
That you it's not enough just to tolerate people of different lifestyles. You have to love everyone. I was like, well, God does tell me to love, but I can love in a biblical sense, and not love that person, not like them.
Wait. Okay, let's talk. This is a good one because
I
love
don't
is
have to
another
like
thing
them.
people don't know how to write. Love is not if you want the kind of love that doesn't matter, and I lost the word, you get a golden retriever.
Right.
That will love you without cause or question.
Yeah, unconditional love.
But unconditional. I could not get that to come out of my mouth. I'm sorry.
Agape. Agape is the Hebrew word for it.
Yes, but that's what God does. That's not on us. But real love is, I conflict with you. My wife has some food tastes, and her family has food tastes that I have no. There's pickled pig parts and things like that. That is not my
Band name called it pickled pig parts.
But wow, that is a great band name. But
It's too easily mispronounced into pickled pig farts.
that makes it even better.
Hey, it's got good Stanley alliteration.
Oh yeah, Excelsior. But I still love her. I was raised TV Catholic. She was raised, if I said sane Baptist, would that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Because before they started getting the hair bumps and everybody had to wear the same jean dresses and weirdness. I'm sorry. I'm being a little too honest here. I'm probably gonna get myself in trouble.
Well, but that's just one denomination of a denomination. So
Yeah,
right.
It's just
you're talking about a very
Sect.
fragment
Yes.
little piece.
It was just
sect.
let's just say it's heavily represented in the area that I used to live, to
Nice.
the point where it became synonymous.
Sure.
But I love her, and that doesn't change. She reads some stuff I have no desire to read. I mean, really don't have any desire to read. But I love her. That doesn't. We don't need to agree to tolerate, and we don't need.
But
to
let's
agree.
up the scope a little bit.
Yeah.
I love humanity, but I don't like humanity.
Right?
Oh,
I want humanity to thrive and to be safe and to be
Absolutely.
good. But I look at it and I'm like, y'all suck, right?
Yeah.
You can love something and not like it.
do unto others as you would have done unto you. What do I want most of the time? To be left the heck alone to do what I'm doing.
I love that Neil Gaiman has written stories that people enjoy. I love that. But I don't like them. I just don't like them. I don't care for them. And I don't have to care for them. And if you tell me I have to care for them, that's when we have a problem. Okay. That's when we have a problem. It's just like this whole issue with the Ring of Power and the She-Hulk thing, right?
Yeah.
Neither one of them are doing real well right now. Well, number one, She-Hulk I don't think did that well anyway, comparatively speaking, to the other books that were out. But I was a fan. I am a fan of She-Hulk. I watched the show. I'll be honest with you. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. It's silly and it's humorous.
It's an okay show. It's an off.
It's okay.
Yep.
It's okay. But here's the thing.
Positive.
But if
Tim Roth in that show needs to be recognized as being far better
good.
than anything else in the show.
He
So
is,
I want to put that out there. All hands
He's
off.
doing very, very well.
But that's because they've got plans. They've got
Yeah,
plans
got
for
plans
that
for him.
character, plans for Tim Roth. They've already told him that he's set up to go.
Abomination
through
is
the
gonna be
next
a big
couple
deal.
of phases. Pretty big, yeah.
But here's the deal. Here's the deal with this, right? If you don't like it, fine. If you like it, fine. Doesn't matter to me either way. But we've got people that say, I don't really like it. Now they take that as a personal offense. Look, it's fine. Make your show. I don't care. I don't have to like it. But if you tell me I have to like it, and if I don't like it, I'm somehow a sexist or a biggest or a phobe. An ist or a phobe. Whenever you start throwing ist and phobe at me because I just don't like something, well, now we've got a problem. Because I'm not an ist or a phobe. I just don't care for it. Like, I don't even have any intention to watch The Ring of Powers. I don't. Because I am a Tolkien fan. And the only reason why I watch those movies that Peter Jackson put out is because he said something very important. It was a 30-second or 40-second clip when he was asked about making the movie. And he said, there's a lot of things that we could say, but what I thought was most important is what Tolkien was trying to say. Exactly. He had a lot of things that he cared about that he put in there. The rise of evil. And, so he named off a couple things. And he goes, I felt it was important to communicate what Tolkien felt was important, what he wanted to say in his story. Jackson removed any agenda that he might have had, or any message that he would have had, and he focused on the content of the source material. And that I loved. And that's why I like those movies. Now I'll tell you, they've already told me that they're not following Tolkien on this. So I'm like, well then this is just the House of Dragons to me.
Yeah.
This is just some other fantasy shtick that I don't care about. I almost said bad words.
There's a couple factors there that
I
are.
saw your hesitation.
Yeah, you saw it. It's like, I almost said a word. I was going to say.
They only have permission to use 30% of content by the licensing agreement. Yeah. I have actually had friends I have had friends and people unfollow me because I like pineapple on pizza. I've actually gotten literal what should be a stupid meme thing. I've had people, I'm like, come at me. I like black licorice too.
I quoted Ron Swanson once, a few years back, and he says that any dog under 50 pounds is a cat, and cats are useless or pointless. And I thought it was funny, so I quoted that on, and I had somebody come at me that I hated cats are wonderful creatures and all that. I said, dude, it's a quote, it's a joke, chill out. That dude got blocked. I know the person in real life, IRL as they say, and we're fine IRL, but he still is blocked from my page. They're not coming around. I'm like, I just can't, it's like, no, it's a joke.
I have some friends
chill out.
I can't stand their online personas.
And Hojo's thought about unfriending you because of the
The pine. Hey, you know what, Hojo? You're a brilliant author. You got to do what you do. I respect you either way.
I love that Marv says he can do whatever he wants with his characters, and that's right. It's your
And
characters.
that-
The whole
they're your
point behind
characters.
being independent.
It's your characters. But here's
right.
the thing: when it's not your character, and there's already this
Established canon?
yeah, there's a mythos that's already been created around it. There's a whole backstory and backlog of content. You know, like here's the thing: if I got into your character a lot, right, and say in book 4 or 5, you decide, you know what, I'm going to change everything about this character, make him somebody completely different. I'm probably going to have a problem with it because I've fallen in love with that character already.
I've stopped
With what it is, with who he is.
novel series. I've walked away from because they've done that. And it's funny because sometimes it's a misplaced redemption arc where they've taken a character who was the whole time a very specific kind of villainous character, but a compelling villain. And that's the thing. I can enjoy a compelling villain who makes sense. When all of a sudden, oh no, we need to give him a redemption arc and change his whole way of doing things. It's like, nah, I'm not interested anymore.
I'm gonna throw a big word on you folks from my GM and DMing days,
Heck yes.
known as verisimilitude.
Ooh,
So basically, when you have a character, you just stay true to the character and where the story is going, and let it go where it leads. And if you don't stick to those fundamentals, and you start making those weird changes, it causes some strange cognitive dissonance in the people that are around the table, in the case of running a game, but also, your readership, and they're just going to start walking away. And that's why I've walked away from Marvel. Anything Marvel Studios is doing right now, I give 0 Fs about any of it anymore. And as much as you're talking up Tim Roth, yeah, he's a great actor. I'll watch Pulp Fiction again, thank you very much. Or I'll go back and watch Reservoir Dogs because I think he's a fantastic actor. I don't need to see him as Abomination to appreciate him as an actor.
No. I'm just saying.
I'm not. But that's not an attack on you. I'm just saying that no matter, I'm completely immune to all of this talking up of anything having to do with Marvel anymore.
Well, I'm convinced
because they've broken me in that regard.
I'm convinced I woke up from my nap in an alternate dimension
Yeah.
where everything was broken.
Yeah.
And I'm not upset by it because I know that the Luke that I replaced is back where I'm at, where everything is still cool. And so he's having a good time.
Luke the Gray, now
Nice.
Luke the White here.
Yes. Fantastic.
That's been running through my head
Luke the
every so
White.
often.
Perfect.
Right now in media, the two things that drive me crazy is the intentional so-called deconstruction. It's not really deconstruction, it's demolishing of the type, of the icon, of the brand, and the fact that the corporate allows it to happen without giving a care, because they don't care about what's on the printed page as much as if they can take that brand and print it on underoos. And the second thing is the upfront rejection of shows and media and entertainment from people just because somebody else told them to hate it.
Yeah.
Drives me crazy. We've said, I've watched She-Hulk. It's funny.
Yeah.
It's not the She-Hulk in the comics. No, it's not my She-Hulk. No, it's
She-Hulk for normies.
She-Hulk wasn't really mine to start with. You know what I'm saying?
It's for normies by normies is what I look at it as.
I tell it when it comes to comics, I tell everybody that all of my characters died anyway at Crisis and Heroes Reborn. They're dead, and they've been replaced by soulless zombies or in an alternate dimension where everything is broken. They're the best comics out there are the well-written comics, and right now you're not seeing that when it comes to these companies tossing an icon to a writer who despises the art form, who despises the demographic that they're supposed to be writing for, and who wants to put themselves in uncreatively into a story.
So let's talk about creating icons then. You're absolutely right.
Dave, you're
it's not
on
about
my
self-insertion.
frequency.
But on the other hand, everything needs to be looked at. You need to be able to remove yourself. And that's how I looked at all of the movies that have come out. Batman by Burton wasn't the Batman that I was reading at the time, but it was a great Batman. To me, it was an entertaining story that you can go in and learn from. just like you can learn from episode 7, 8, and 9. It's just that you're learning all of the wrong lessons, all of the negativisms that you can do when you're supposedly writing a story. Everybody loves Rogue One. I sat up at the theater. I stood up at the theater at Rogue One and said, I'm never going to get those 2 hours back because nobody was logically, creatively running that plot. Nobody.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen. The
Solo,
great characters, great things to sell, wonderful ideas, but no drive, no plot, no serious plot structure. It kind of looped twice, just like
they had an end, and then they figured out it's like they meandered to get to the end because the end was already written for them.
Yeah,
and
it didn't. No, it was. That was a choice. Them killing off them characters at that point was a choice.
Yeah,
and it was a wrong choice.
It felt to me like a bunch of my players sitting around a table playing these characters, and you got the person running the game as the movie producer or director or whatever, and that's pretty much how it feels. And same with Solo. You get introduced to all these different characters, and it's like, that's a start. That's my Star Wars game on Friday night.
Yeah, it did feel very much like an RPG session.
That's what Rogue One really was.
It was like that scene. The writing room was like that scene in Dude, Where's My Car? We're at the drive-through, and they kept getting and then no more, and then no more, and then and then. And they had to keep going to the more ludicrous response over and over and over again. It was that way with sorry, I just spilled a bunch of books. It was that way with the Rogue One plot. It was irritating.
Yeah.
And okay, so I think it's important to look at like where these mistakes are being made, so that we cannot make them. Now there are some examples in indie comics of where the choices are being made well.
Yes.
And that is, I'm leaving this comment on the screen because I want people to see it, by Dave Brink.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't understand why so many people are so attached to Marvel that they'd rather complain for years instead of walking away. Here's the thing. I can love a lot of things in my past. You know what I used to love when I was a kid? Those popsicles. With
Bomb pop.
cut your mouth open.
Yeah.
Those things. I also, when I was a teenager, used to hang out at Taco Bell all the time, and I used to eat copious amounts of Taco Bell. I don't care for Taco Bell anymore. I don't go back to Taco Bell, right? But I still have fond memories of my old Taco Bell experiences. And I long for the nostalgia of that. And I have fun talking about it, and I laugh about the stories of me and my buddies hanging out there and those kind of things. I think that that's where I'm at in my life with Marvel and DC. I can look back on what I had fondly. But, just like I don't eat at Taco Bell anymore, now I'm a Chipotle guy. I've graduated to something better, right?
But are you still saving people? Sorry.
But
the irritating thing is now everybody that's working, so-called working up there, will tell you, we didn't make these books for you. It's like, no, actually,
obviously,
way back when, you used to make them for everybody. Now you only make them for yourself. And that's
it
a
used to
problem.
be made for everybody. Like, it's kind of like what I say about my hybrids and Rift Riders. I make this for you. Like, I'm talking to the people watching the show right now, people that are going to watch back and playback. I make what I make for you. Mm-hmm. I enjoy it, but I make it for you to consume, and for you to enjoy. And they don't do that. And I mean, it's obvious. They say I didn't make it for you. Well, then don't get mad at me when I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You didn't make it for me. Mm-hmm. So why should I consume it?
Exactly.
And that's the other thing. They're saying that the Ring of Power has gotten such a bad response because it's the fans of the Lord of the Rings and Tolkien are not coming out and supporting it, or they've given it bad reviews. But you already said you didn't make it for the fans. You looked at the fan of the Lord of the Rings and you gave them the finger and said, we're going to make this for normies. And the fans said, okay, I'm not going to watch it then.
They gave you the reason not to watch it. so you don't watch it. And,
so I want to,
and then they wonder why you're not watching.
Right.
I want to, since you brought it up, I definitely want to call out something that I saw on Twitter, and I'm going to try to link, so maybe we can. I mean, this may be spicy. I don't know, but here we go.
We don't worry about spice.
Okay, so I'm gonna withhold my my comment until we actually get a chance to look at this thing and see what someone has to say about it. But if you could show this, I just seeing this, and I don't.
Okay.
So is this too hot for TV?
No.
Okay. So let's share that, because I want.
They got to make everything political.
But the one thing I want to point out here, okay, big shout out to the one person in their ensemble that is not present for whatever reason. I have to give props to Samwise Gamgee,
Nope.
aka
Nope,
Sean
you
Astin.
can't. Nope,
I can't.
You can't.
Really?
Nope, because he posted wearing a hat.
Oh.
He did another post.
Well,
I don't know if it's down here or not.
Oh no.
But
okay, well, never mind. I rescind it then.
Yeah, you have to rescind it. They're selling these things now. Sean Astin. So here's somebody wearing it.
With the
dang, I'm gonna have to look that up.
There is.
Well, I like that he's not in the picture.
There he is.
I guess. Yeah.
Wait, what? Look at that. Oh, what?
Yep.
He doesn't look happy though. Have to give him credit.
Can you be when you have to be about the message? When it's all about the message, how can you be happy? When it's
how far have we fallen from Goonies, my friend? Come on.
Okay.
We've got an agenda to push.
This is my opinion on the thing. It actually harkens back to Randy. I did not watch it, so I really can't judge.
Yeah.
That's what my dad would call it, was contempt prior to investigation. And that's something I try to avoid. Now, my gut may say this is probably not something, and unless I get full confirmation, like here's the synopsis of the program, and I see something violently not, this show contains rape. Okay, then I know I'm not even going to bother with it. But I can't go. I'm really opposed to it, because I'm not opposed to it for what they're claiming.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of this has to do with the people who are, because there are people who are genuinely racist, and they genuinely don't want to see black people manifesting.
There's not as many as what they claim. Here's the thing. I'll be really honest with you. You say that you know people like that. I grew up in the same area that you did. I live in the South, okay? I live in Jacksonville, Florida, which is more South than South, okay?
I understand.
When they say deep South, I mean deep South. And I have never once met one white person in my life that openly hates black people.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Not one time in my life.
Rural areas in backwoods.
I've met people with prejudices.
Where I live.
And their prejudices were based on fear.
Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, that's dangerous. And it was based on
And
fear there was not outright hatred.
My experience is entirely different on that one, because I have met many people who hate.
Well, I pity the circle that you're in.
No.
And the thing is, no, you didn't. Because you were in Central, I was in Northwest Indiana, and a lot of it was much more urban and Chicago.
So,
I thought the North was enlightened. I thought the North,
Oh, no.
I'm speaking in sarcasm.
Not,
all right.
Yeah.
I'm speaking in sarcasm.
I want to rein this.
I will also say before we go, I've also known a lot of black people who don't like white people because they're white too.
I was going to say,
I've
give me the floor for 2 minutes and let me give you a couple of stories here.
Okay. Well, can I wrap up wrap it up. because I feel like, okay, so here's the thing. Do I care whether or not Tolkien has a diverse cast? Okay. And if it's going to follow Tolkien, no, I don't care. Okay. What I do care about is the quite obvious trying to say that because I don't want to watch the show, that I'm somehow a misogynistic racist, and then Hollywood actors having to toe that party line and show their solidarity for the message against me as someone who's just not going to partake in their show. It's not. I don't have anything against having a diverse cast. I have things against the level of writing excellence that should be there if it is going to portray Tolkien. But give me give me the books. I'll read the books. They can have their TV shows. I just want to say that I guess I want more people to kind of stand up that are in these circles. We need a new Hollywood, and that's all I have to say about it.
Well, we're creating new forms of entertainment all the time, especially here in crowdfunding. But,
right.
As far as hatred goes, I know, Nick, you want to talk. But
Okay.
When I was young, I dated a young lady who took me home to meet her parents, and her parents. And this is Flint. I grew up around the Flint area, which is a melting pot of everything that you can imagine.
Right.
Walked into her house in a big frame in their living room. The size of an old style movie poster was a picture of her dad in full regalia in front of a burning cross, in full clan regalia in front of a burning cross. Needless to say, that relationship didn't go much farther. Then on the other hand, I'm out doing business in Flint, and I'm trying to talk to a gentleman, a person of color, and he's literally demeaning me, treating me like a second-class citizen, and I said, "Oh, well, this guy absolutely hates white dudes." That's okay. The business didn't go any farther.
Yeah,
racism is really, in my mind, a form of ignorance.
Oh, it absolutely is a manifestation of ignorance.
It's a pure manifestation of ignorance. But if I ever sit down and watch Rings of Power, I'm not going to watch it as a Tolkien.
Right.
Property.
It's just it's a
Not
a
at all.
fanfic.
And I think that's the other thing
Yeah.
is to but yeah.
I'm with you, Jess.
It's
I
the
just don't
same
care.
way I watch all of the
Yeah,
Marvel stuff now. The Eternals, it wasn't the Eternals in the comics. It should have been totally offensive to me because I love that book, and at the time the book came out, I was just starting to admire the crazy imagination that was Jack Kirby, and that Eternals is not Kirby at all.
And here's the thing, I
still watched it.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed it just because
Right.
it had the same name and it wasn't the same characters. It didn't mean that it was any less,
I think our
brain
lack
check
of
entertainment.
care.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we just don't care.
Yeah.
It's like I don't care what Marvel does. I don't care what Amazon or Hulu or whatever they do with these characters. I mean, I'm not going to watch it. It's not. If I watch it, it's by happenstance. It's like okay, I'll check it out, but it's not like I'm not chomping at the bit for this stuff.
I was totally paralyzed when I watched Eternals too. So I didn't have anywhere else to go at that point.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right. It's like you had to.
It's still
where did you
branching.
go?
Yeah. And Shang-Chi, the movie, wasn't my Shang-Chi at all.
No,
I have
it wasn't
a whole
the same Shang-Chi
completely
at all.
different set of loves and memories. Jim Starlin and Gene Day and Paul Gulacy and doing all of this great stuff. Yes, it was stereotyped and you'd never see it out today. But the character that they did the Marvel movie on was still entertaining.
Now,
Yeah, it was still entertaining.
I still liked
it.
the movie, even though it had a real base movie arc structure. At least it was written.
Yeah, but just because you don't like something or don't want it,
Yeah.
they're vilifying people because of it.
Right.
And that's
And
my
here's the thing.
point.
Yeah, and the point is for us, like we talk about how we don't like it, not because we're butthurt about it, but because that we explain this is why we don't like it, and this is why we choose something else. Mm-hmm. So I'm not. The problem is a lot of people out there don't know that there's other options. They don't realize that there are new stories and new adventures and new worlds to jump into. They feel like all they've got is the mainstream.
And
all they've got is Marvel and DC.
Why I get so annoyed about this time. Yeah, we're about an hour and a half into the show. I'm almost scheduled between an hour and a half, between an hour and a half in the show. I'm gonna start feeling this little twinge right here, right where a guy with a spike brings my eyebrow off, because he didn't like I was dating a black girl at the time. But so yeah, we keep getting pulled into the. Well, I don't. They're doing this. I don't like it. We're talking. And it always steals from us.
No, it doesn't.
Well, I think it does. I think
no, Nick, you're reading too much into it. Here's the thing: we are all in our 40s and above, right?
Yep.
Remember when you were a kid, and your dad and his friends or uncle, and whatever, they would get together and drink coffee or go out to go somewhere. What did they do? They complained. They complained. No, this is what they did. They complained about the weather. They complained about the politics. They complained about their jobs. Guess what? This is our job. We're complaining about politics. We're complaining about our jobs. We're just doing what middle-aged white men and above have been doing since creation.
I don't think you have to be white to fit that description.
No, you don't. No, you don't. I only use that for comedic purposes.
Okay.
But I'll tell you what. I've sat down and complained with black, Asian, Hispanic, anybody.
Yeah.
So it's not that it's stealing from us. It's what we're going to do. It's what we do afterwards.
Yep.
and that
is whether it steals or not.
That's what because I get frustrated because I know so many amazing creators, right? And many of us have streams, and I watch where I can. A lot of times I don't watch what I would because my son's usually in the room and the language gets a little too spicy or the content is too spicy. But so I don't get to watch it. But what I'll get is I'll look at it. It's like you've spent 8 hours, and the entire 8 hour, 4 hours. So maybe you do two 4-hour streams, 8 hours of your week, a part-time job, and all you've done using that time is complain. Now, does that build you an audience? Yes, and I respect that. But I catch some of these guys, it's like, well, I want to get writing done. Here's a thought. And I'm going to swear mildly because there's no way out of it. Bitch less, create more.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done, but I still see it as they're great 2 beats in life.
Yeah.
1-2 punches that change your life. You want to complain, everybody should. And everybody here has the right to. That's part of why we're not doing what they do. Why I'm not sitting here going, I'm going to make D&D 5th edition games. Because I could. I could probably make more money doing D&D 5th edition games. Or whatever Beyond's going to be. But that's not what I want to do. So you complain about it, then you get up and you say something. When you have a problem, you get down on your knees, you pray to God for help, and then you get up and you do something about the problem in the faith that you're going to get some divine assistance, whether you perceive it or not. It's that second step. And what we talked about here today is what's wrong with comics. And if you look
I think we always diverge to that a little bit, is what's wrong with it.
Yeah, but I mean...
I want to talk about games when you're done.
I'm all for it. But if you see it, amend it. That's the great thing about being independent. You can pivot. You don't have to go, boss, I don't like how this plot line is going. Can we get the writing team together next Thursday to discuss possibly changing X, Y, or Z? No, you go, shoot, this sucks. I need to fix it, but I need to fix it in the plot. So it's not published yet. I can throw that away, and I can do something better. So there's that. And
I have to say, we've watched, anybody who's followed genre entertainment has seen characters evolve. Because when Arrow first started, he was shooting arrows and killing people.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there was an upcry, and suddenly the writers decided, oh, that's not what a superhero does, because it's not. And they ended up changing that, evolving it as they went along. Something that I just got done watching was Star Trek Discovery, and everybody up front was calling, Mary Sue's and all, and how SJW it was. And the first season is horrible, absolutely cringeworthy, very difficult to get through. Second season, not so much. Third season, that you're watching, and I am impressed by evolution, by watching how things evolve and change, and hopefully for the better. And that's one show that I can point to now and say, because I've sat there and watched the whole thing, that it has evolved, and that the writers in that room are getting better. The more that they do, the better they get. I can't wait to see next season, because the fourth season to me was incredibly entertaining. As they're taking those characters and they're going, oh, well, we shouldn't write that like this. We should work on this. We should alter this character this way in order to make them more vulnerable. We should make them more interesting when they're more vulnerable and take them in that direction. And it's an interesting show to watch, because yes, the first season, horrible, absolutely Mary Sue, SJW, preachy up the wazoo, and then it gets a little better, then it gets a lot better, then it gets even better than that, and it's fascinating to sit and watch, and to see them applying it, because Strange New Worlds, the newest Trek show that they've done, they went and took what they have learned from Discovery, and you can see it, and have gone back and looked at the original series and said, we want to apply what we're learning here to the greatness that used to be Kirk and Spock, and see what we can do with stories. Boom. And some of it's bad, some of it's cringy, but overall, it's, as long as you check your brain at the door, it's really entertaining.
Brave New Worlds is, I'm sorry, I had to.
Strange New Worlds, yeah.
Yeah, Strange New. That is the best new Star Trek property I have seen almost since before Voyager.
But I think it's if you have to compare it to something else that's really popular, Breaking Bad for me was a rough watch when it first came out. First season, I almost gave up. Said, no, this guy is losing. If I want to deal with this, I'll just experience real life. Yeah. Then it gets better. Then it gets crazy better. It's the same thing. Love seeing the evolution from these shows, because usually you see the exact opposite. You see a sheer eroding as the writers get worse and worse and worse and worse, and the show literally goes downhill into nothing until it's canceled. But it's interesting to see the Trek people, at least there's somebody up there in the writing room that actually gives a crap about what they're doing and is going back and trying to intentionally make entertainment, as opposed to just verbiage propaganda crap.
Yep.
That's fun to see.
So here's what happens with this show. So about the hour and a half mark, we whatever our conversation is, it diverges to one point. Yep. There's propaganda and there is messaging from an extremist community that is interfering with good writing and good storytelling.
Yeah.
And our response is we don't like it. And so because our response is we don't like it, we're then vilified. And so then, at about the hour and a half mark, we start talking about things that, okay, well, how do we fix it? Okay?
Right.
That tends to be the format at this point.
No, it works really well.
So I want to point out one other thing, because of the whole game thing, because, this is nerd bacon. It's all about nerd stuff. Yeah. And recently, Wizards of the Coast had to apologize for racist content in their Spelljammer Adventures in Space. Let me say this is absolutely ridiculous. So this is the deal. They've pulled this new race called the Hadazee, and they made a statement on Twitter saying that we want to acknowledge and own the inclusion of offensive material within our recent Spelljammer. So they're saying this is racist. Someone said it was racist. We're apologizing. We should have caught this. But I want to show you what they thought was racist. Someone looked at this race, the new Hadazee race, and they said, oh, that's black people.
Oh, jeez.
This is a monkey race, okay?
Yeah.
They're described as a space monkey.
Yeah.
If you look at this and see black people, you're racist.
That is not actually what was said.
Okay.
Okay.
Enlighten us, Nick.
Yes.
Because, kind of my field. What the issue wasn't that they, at least allegedly, that they were black people. It was that the origin of the species involves a retestament of.
It does not. I know what you're saying. They said that. Okay, so the story is. Let's go back to the article.
The origin of the story of the species mirrors some of the stories of enslavement and basically some heavy genocidal stuff, because that's a wizard-generated race that were used as a slave race.
Yeah, they were taken by a wizard who experimented on them to enhance them in order to sell them as slaves.
Yes.
Okay. That is not a new concept.
Oh no! Bear with me.
Right.
This is a. Here's the problem. The problem is sometimes you have to parody evil to write about it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And no one here is condoning that that's a good thing. It's much like Tolkien's writings seriously mirror effects of the world wars. There's a parody aspect.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is people took it that way, and
but here's the thing, we're overlooking something. White people were taken into slavery.
Mm-hmm.
Jews were taken into slavery.
We're not allowed to look at those, though.
Africans taken into slavery.
Yeah, we're not.
There's a lot of, that goes across the board. What makes this racist to someone is not that they were just taken into slavery, but that they're monkeys. Okay?
And you know what? You want a testament to the way my brain works? I had to step out to be able. What the? I'm going. What the? They're not people. That's all.
They're winged monkeys.
Yeah. They're
they're flying monkeys too.
Yeah,
huh?
they're flying
Some of
monkeys.
them.
They're gliding monkeys.
they're-
Looks
They're
like.
gliding.
Yeah.
So
they're
They're called
they're,
deck apes or winged deck apes. So there's
Yeah.
I guess there's maybe two
Winged
different kinds.
decades. Yeah, there must be.
nice.
If you
they're-
see that and
Love it.
see a black person, I think you're racist.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
what I think.
I think there's some projection there, because you.
So
have,
how many more
All
points
people-
would this company have made if they had said, "Hey, if you see racism here, that's on you."
That right, because
you know.
here's what they did in the 80s during the Satanic Panic. They said, "Y'all are nuts," and they stood their ground.
Where rock and roll was the devil's music.
Yeah,
And
they-
D&D was
yeah,
was
they
all
stood-
demonizing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They stood their ground.
Yeah.
They stood their ground. They didn't cave, right? But
Mm-hmm.
now they're caving to a few woke people that look at monkeys and see black people.
Yeah.
The ones that are supposed to be enlightened and not racist, that's pretty dang racist in my opinion.
Yeah.
I've never looked at a monkey and thought, wow, that looks like a black person. I've never, when I see this, I don't see a black person. I don't see like the equation to black people being sold into slavery. I don't see that.
Well, I can see a resemblance there to Abraham Lincoln.
A little bit with the beard, right? Let's
Yeah.
let's
With
zoom
the
in on
facial
that.
hair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but he
He does look
better
more
be
like Abraham
careful.
Lincoln.
I got
Amish.
I got a take on him, but this is not the place.
Okay.
And
On
his-
who,
his
Lincoln
gun.
or this guy?
Lincoln.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
another.
mean, look
day.
at his hair. I mean, clearly this is a what?
Yeah,
If this was going to
I
be,
could give a whole dissertation on Lincoln.
yeah,
Yeah,
if
you know,
this was
you know
going
what?
to be
That's an
a
interesting
person,
point.
he'd be.
I see where you're going, because what do they call it? Ethnic natural hair, I think
Yeah.
is the
Yeah.
the way to put it, where you don't get in trouble. This character certainly does not possess that,
Mm-mm.
and it is interesting when we have throughout D&D, we have dog people, we have dragon people, we have literally any animal. Hiya, furries, how you doing? But any animal manifest, and it's not. But
So I understand that calling African Americans is
that that
monkeys,
one
apes,
makes
that I get that. Okay, but if you take something as, I think, innocuous as this, and you make it racist because you here's the thing. There's a lot of people that like to point out racism, and I'm wondering if they're pointing this out and they're finding it sometimes in many cases almost they're grasping for straws for it. I'm wondering if there's not something in them that they identify that sees that. I mean, if that's what you saw, if the first thing you saw was that, then you've probably called a black person a monkey, which I have never done.
Yeah.
That's not
I'll
my.
be honest. It didn't even occur to me to think that way. I mean, it literally, and I've been exposed to a lot of racism.
Yeah.
But
Obviously, you've been exposed to more than I have, and I mean, it just
I had
has.
a KKK got a midget in the KKK light me on fire.
Imagine.
I'm not kidding. The guy was a literal midget trying to join the KKK.
I am not making fun of little people.
Snuck up behind
Well,
me and-
no, but aren't they also bigoted towards deformities such as that to be an actual neo-Nazi? Okay.
And that's the weird thing.
Yeah.
I always find it weird what people are and aren't twinged by. Not that I'm twinged by anything. I like people. I like individuals.
Vol says, guys, the Haddazee never had slavery in their background until this edition.
Yeah.
They've existed since the 80s. It's part of the recent obsession. It is.
Now, see, that's what I wondered about, because I'm like, I played Spelljammer in the 80s. So why was that added?
Right. Well, because they thought it was an interesting backstory. Think about a race that of just monkeys that were enhanced to be slaves, but somehow have not been that. They've have overcome that, and now they have their own, and they're in the space.
Now can I ask? Wow, I hate that this is the way my mind works. But my mind works like this. There hasn't been a lot of talk about the Spelljammer release outside of the D&D community at all.
No,
right?
Except for this.
Huh.
Right?
Now,
there you go. Okay, so you're
I see where
manufacturing the
I see where you're going with this.
about this.
I mean, this is
to
jaded.
try to get people to eyes on it.
I talked about.
Dang.
How soon before we see the HLM hats?
Nice.
Wow!
Oh, grenade humor.
Awesome.
I'm glad you caught that.
Wow.
Hadozi or how do you say it?
I think it's a Haddazee.
Hadozi?
Yeah.
Haddazee.
Because I could see, I can see that happening.
But not greedy part of me is like, we could make some money on that. No, but
maybe we too can raise 90 million for charity.
Yeah.
And
Let's
keep it and buy houses.
Let's hear from someone that has brown skin. Aaron Jordan says, to me, automatically assuming that's what the intentions were is the problem, because that's all they go to. People aren't prejudiced in thought, aren't going to come to that conclusion as fast.
Right.
If you aren't prejudiced in thought, you aren't.
I mean, I hate to say, you watched it in real time because I had seen the text, and I'm like, okay, I could see the historical reference. I mean, I literally could see, and then the image. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Oh,
fictional races. I mean, come on, it's fiction, it's story, and again, so someone wrote that backstory. They changed it because they thought it was more interesting. And because of the wokeness here, they're now forced to recant their story.
No, they weren't forced to do that. They did that
They
as
decided to do that.
as a return, as a kind of virtue signaling and stepping on the right box in order to look like the good people that they are.
Now, see, there's something else going on interesting in D&D, and that is that they've stepped away from alignments. Because in D&D, when you set your character up, you had an alignment. Originally, you were basically good. What kind of good? Neutral, you didn't give an ang, or evil.
Mm-hmm.
And your players,
I always went with chaotic neutral. That was me.
well, yes, you shockingly.
Imagine that.
Because a lot of it's what your fantasy was. It's a no negative. You can be whatever you want. So it's a very telling thing. But they also had species that were bad. They were evil species, and they are slowly, because they call the species races. Having evil races, by that logic, by that simple turn of phrase, and we've talked about phrasing being a problem in the past, having an inherently evil race is by nature racist in what they're talking about.
But the Daleks are evil.
Right.
The Cybermen are evil.
Right.
I mean,
and what you're seeing, what they're actually trying to step away from, and they don't know how to do it, is having that.
So, here's. Go ahead.
Well, it started with the fixation on Drizzt. Drizzt Do'Urden, the Drow, R.A. Salvatore's amazing creation. If you don't know, just nod. The original books were great.
The crystal.
The Crystal Shard.
Yeah, that's the very first book. Is the Crystal Shard.
Yes, that's what I believe his first entry into Forgotten Realms. But the second trilogy, the Dark Elf trilogy, starts in Mental Branison, and it fixates on the one good guy elf, Dark Elf, in a society that's led by an evil goddess, trying to survive and finally escape from that setting. And it's very, very well written, very inspirational. And again, 25, 30 years later, it's had a lot of effect. But now the concept of the Dark Elves being an evil race doesn't work because so many people have gone, that character's cool, I want to do my version of that character and spin off and stuff.
I want to do a good. Yeah, I want to. They defected. They're good now.
Right.
Yeah, I had a dark elf that was good.
Yeah, everybody did.
Lawful. It was lawful. Yeah.
I have a dark elf who's an inverted adventurer. He comes up to the surface to find like dandelion fluff to sell in the Underdark and makes a killing doing it. That was literally his shtick. But
well, I think the real problem is for far too long we've used the term race when talking about distinctions in the human race, because we're one race, we're one people, and for allowing these the general to be used for the specific for far too long has caused this ambiguity. Ambiguity, and it's laid this minefield of all this stuff to where it's like, okay,
you can't convey an idea with no ill intent, without it stumbling. And it's funny because
somebody's going to find ill content because that's what they look for. Here's the thing: if you're looking for a problem, you're going to find a problem. If you're looking for a fight, you're going to find one.
It's more than that. It literally is a linguistic failing, because on Nevermind the Furthermore, my show yesterday, there was a discussion between Jody McPhee and who was it? I can't remember who the other party was, but they were talking back and forth about bias, and they got hung up on a specific term, and it meant two different things to them. So they couldn't bring their conversations together. And I watched it happen in real time. I'm going, guys, this is what we're talking about. We're letting linguistic errors wreck positive messages. It's like, it's a higher, if I said to a D&D player, it's a higher level.
Right.
Am I talking level of the dungeon? Am I talking your XP advancement? Am I talking the power of a spell?
Exactly.
The term level got
so many meanings.
It was too broadly applied, so you couldn't splice it apart to you can't tell what it's referring to by the term alone. And race doesn't make sense in definition to me for humanity, because we're all the same freaking species.
Exactly.
Some of us are taller, some of us are shorter, some of us are colored differently. That's one thing that the new D&D is actually doing right. In the brand new, I'm play testing right now. I'm involved with the play test for the new D&D. What is it? D&D 1.
Are you allowed to talk about this?
Didn't
you sign an NDA?
No. This is the kind I'm encouraged to.
Okay, cool.
Talk about.
Then go on.
Yes, thank you for trying to save my butt. They talk about the human race.
Papa Hasbro and all,
Oh yeah. And what they changed so much from previous editions. They now have the range of heights going from 4 foot to 7 foot, because that's actually a more accurate.
Yeah, it used to be if you're a 4 foot, you're a pygmy or whatever they were called.
Well, no. I mean, you're literally little people.
Yeah.
I think that's the current term for people who are medically suffer dwarfism.
No, I'm talking about in the game. Like there was a time, like if you're like 4 foot, it was like you can have a 4 foot character, but it was, it was the race with the tail. Like
if there was a time you weren't human, the only way to do a character that big, that small, was you couldn't be human.
Yeah, exactly.
You had to be you had to be a halfling. You had to be a dwarf or a halfling, depending on the height.
Halfling, that's the word. Yeah.
Way back, which is just a hobbit without having the permission to use the term hobbit originally. But in the new one, they're like, okay, there's the spread. You can be this, and they have rules for if you're 7 foot, you're considered, a large creature, a medium creature, or if you're like 4 foot, you're a small person, and it's set up that the mechanics reflect. That's how representation can work right, because no one in the chat is going, well, that doesn't make sense because we're all only between 5 foot and 6 here.
Dave's preaching. You know who are actually responsible for all the absolute insanity that has infected every aspect of entertainment? Not the SJWs, no. All the people who bow down to them. You're absolutely right. So here's the thing. Don't apologize for being awesome. Don't say, hey, look, I wrote a story and I wasn't thinking racism. I wasn't being insensitive because that wasn't on my brain. I'm telling a story about these people, about this creature over here. You are seeing racism and things that aren't there. Maybe it's a you problem and not a me problem. But no. We always bow. We're like, oh, well, it's definitely a me problem.
Well, and that really comes to the difference between being an independent creator and a corporate, a public, you know what I'm saying, an entangled creator. I don't have the right term, and this is why
that's good. Yeah,
entangled. I like that.
I like that because as an entangled creator, you got to look back at that person who wrote that. Okay, if they got that, the media department, whoever's here got some kind of message, and you, with as anal as the market is today, one screw up can get you canceled.
It can. They
try. And D&D does have a fear of being canceled because of how the Satanic Panic affected it. They weathered it,
but
they also Well, let me put it this way: the
Well,
publishers of D&D.
But there's also this really big, spotlight on them now, thanks to
Right.
shows like Critical Role, and I mean,
And the normies now knowing about
Yeah.
the game because of
well, yeah, and that's
Exactly.
what happened.
exactly Stranger Things,
The
now all of a sudden
deepest
they throw
part
that in there.
of geekdom, one of the core tenets of geekdom, being D&D, is now mainstream.
Yeah.
And what you have is D&D was an intensely independent produced thing. When you go back to like TSR, scrappy RPGs in the day were intensely independent. And by the real burden on them was, did the market allow it?
Right.
And that's why it will be interesting to see if we visit Shadowrun or some of especially the properties that were a little more powerful in the 80s.
So let me ask this question real quick.
Yeah.
This is a serious question for you, Nick.
Yeah, okay.
So D&D is where it's at because of its fiercely independent spirit, right?
Yes.
And a lot of the things that we like that rise to a more mainstream culture get there because of their fiercely independent nature.
Yes.
So something like D&D, when it goes mainstream now, it now has to bow to woke cultural things in fear of getting canceled. Will it be as successful now that it no longer has the fiercely independent?
It's ironic because we are going. Well, there are two things. D&D has a special asterisk I'm kind of floating here. I'm going to reach for it in a minute. Okay. But remember how we were talking? The superhero goes from saving people in a street level, and it builds up and it gets up to the cosmic where it starts to lose touch with what it was.
Yeah.
D&D could go, and in some ways is going through that process, but there is a beautiful problem that's preventing that from ever entirely taking over, and that's the asterisks I'm talking about. At the beginning of every D&D book is something that says in one form or another, all these rules are suggestions. At the end of the day, this is your house, your table. You can change it for your table. It won't be recognized anywhere else, but it's yours. That's part of what makes D&D so personal.
It's your little Christian Hamilton.
Yeah, well,
Exactly.
but yeah, you have your right to tweak it. And as somebody who I got into homebrewing because I literally found my first D&D book beside the garbage because it had been thrown away as part of the Satanic Panic. And I only had it was the rule book from the world's ugliest, the new easy to master D&D. With the world's ugliest dragon on the cover. I have it. It's right over there, as is my photocopied and laminated version. But because it went out of print. It had that. I had 5 levels. I had people who wanted to play to level 6. Now what? You homebrew it. And because D&D has that ingrained ability for constant personal tweaking, it isn't as rigid a media as literally anything else, because it's a collaborative impromptu, and people don't even realize it. It's a collaborative impromptu writing exercise.
Oh no, we understand that.
No,
as a player, we understand that.
We understand what I mean. It's the people outside of it.
Yeah.
Don't understand it.
Right.
Which is why, every edition that comes out, they say, this is the new edition, this is going to be the rules. And you'll hear the same debate after a while. I learned this one. I like this one. I'm going to keep playing this one. And overall, there's an agree to disagree kind of thing. Yep. It's the same reason why.
That's why you've got second gens versus fifth gens.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. 3.5.
And then if you don't like it, you just do something like the old school revisionist.
That's what I love about GURPS. GURPS
Yeah,
was like,
or you write GURPS, or you write a different game system. Because we use D&D and RPGs as interchangeable terms.
yeah,
And in this one, we really need to bring RPGs and stop using D&D for a second.
yeah,
Yeah.
RPGs.
Because RPGs are one of the most inherently independent systems, because with the exception of modules where they give you the story and they say, this is how you do it, even then there's wiggle room.
Right, yeah.
When it's well written. I've had some debates on this.
Yeah.
The main product is, here's how to make stories. Here's some rules to keep it fair for everybody. Use them if you like them. Here's some shiny math rocks that are addictive.
Yes.
No, I mean, literally.
Dice goblins.
And then
I'm one.
Decide, are you going to use miniatures on a table? Are you going to do theater of the mind? And that freedom keeps it from being fully focus grouped. And that's what the business sides, I hate to say the soulless business drones because that sounds unkind, but they don't know how to process creation.
Well, and I think, but here's the problem, right? Having your own game, it ceases to be your own game when you start to broadcast it in live streams for the whole world to see, and so everything gets brought down into this on this microscope. And I'm not going to draw any attention to any specific details, but I remember a couple of years ago I was getting really into this one sci-fi show on a particular network on YouTube that was actually producing quality role-playing game content. And there was a moment, one of those awkward moments, which if you've run a game or been in a game for any length of period of time, you're going to have a moment where things get kind of really weird and really crazy because the GMs, going with what the character that they are playing, the NPC that they're playing, would want to go and where they would want to go in the moment, right?
Absolutely.
And because it's all improvisational. And this one moment caused this guy to be 100% not only canceled, blackballed. Basically, if I were to, bring up his name here, probably get this whole thing struck. Like, I'm telling you, like he is so, like, what do you call it? He's like kryptonite. So
he's radioactive.
There you go. Thank you.
No,
he is. He's radioactive, and so this one game, had it been completely private and whatnot, it would have been a moment, and the players, it would have been extremely awkward, but the story would have continued, and it would have went on to the enjoyment of the players. But because
it's what Vol's saying.
There's no freedom.
Yeah. Now D&D's turned into a game, not that you play, but a thing that you watch.
Well,
yeah.
It is entertaining to watch them.
I can come at this from the angle of having done both quite a bit. I spent about, I don't know, half a year, 8 months being the DM over for Red Valkyrie Presents. Thank you, Johnny. And you have to balance that, because that isn't just D&D. That's D&D and broadcasting.
Yeah.
And the problems, it's really easy to say that the problems are D&D. No, the problems are, that's the broadcasting side.
Yeah. The problem is that there's cameras on you.
Right.
And that sometimes you get in the moment and you say something without thinking, like you have a slip of the tongue, you try to make a joke and it fails.
To accidentally make an insinuation or, say something that sounds, once you've said it, you're like, oh God, that sounds terrible. We all do it. I do it on the show.
It's like, oops, my bad.
The problem really comes to in broadcast media, there is no forgiveness for error. Exactly. And we live in a culture where if you make any mistakes, there is, and that's part of where I go, we are living in an incredibly anti-Christian time, because forgiveness is a major Christian deal. We're big about that, and we're supposed to try to emulate that. If somebody goofs up and they apologize, it should be done by that moral set, but that moral set isn't held.
Right.
and there is no statute of limitations anymore.
Right.
So somebody who was raised, it's like, I can't remember who it was. A country singer said something 40 years ago. They found it on a scratchy tape. And it was racially, it was a horrible thing to say. 40 years ago. I was like, I have changed my opinion in 4 decades. I've
had personal growth.
Yeah, they don't leave room for that.
Yeah,
I am not who I used to be.
There's no personal growth. Maybe because they don't have any.
And I don't think they want that, because that changes demographics.
Well, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to tell you what. In 2 decades, all these SJWs are going to regret a lot of what they put out on the internet. Mm-hmm. They're going to regret it. They're going to be like, oh man, that was because the culture will change. The pendulum will swing the other way, and they're not going to want to be held accountable for things they said swept up into the culture at that moment. Mm-hmm. They'll be like, look, I've changed. My mind has changed. I'm a different person now. But they don't want to look at someone 4 decades ago and say, look, yeah, maybe you've grown a little bit as a person. And but that all comes back down. Let's talk about storytelling again.
Yeah, well,
that's the problem with these stories. That's why these heroes lose touch, because there's no personal growth, and they have to emulate or mimic the writer, and writers aren't capable of writing a character that doesn't look like them.
They don't have the talent to be able.
The writers don't have the talent. But we need to go back to something where so much personal growth, they assume that if you get in the right place, you have to keep going. We have a cancerous approach to progress in certain fields, where it's it's funny, because I will get messages of things I've written about how I feel about morality, or social endeavors from 15 years ago on Facebook. And while it's not as eloquent as I am now, I'm saying the same message. Yeah. And that the fear is, and this is why they go after Supes, why they go after Captain America, why they go after any character who holds the moral line. Their excuse is, well, he's stagnated. He needs to change. There are times where change is not the right answer. There are times where you've built a foundation of morality, and and it's right today, and it's right tomorrow, and it's right 100 years from now. It was right 100 years ago. And it's things like being kind, being honest, being fair, being courageous in the face of threats. And they want to attack this morality, because that is harder to control, because there are people who want everyone in the state of not knowing if right and wrong, up and down. Mm-hmm. And there are some things that need to change. Things like real racism, real bigotry, real hatred of women and misogyny and all that stuff. That's crap, and it needs to change. But you cannot erode the good things that matter.
So I've been sitting on 2 characters this entire show. Okay, the two points I want to make. Number one, the very first time I actually saw this play out, this whole concept of deconstructing a hero, in a moment, and I had that first almost like gag reflex. It is like a mental gag reflex. Was I really loved the movie Transformers, right? Yes. Michael Bay, and so it comes out, and I watched it over and over. I couldn't get enough of that movie. And then when Transformers 2 comes out, I can't remember what it was called, Revenge of the Fallen or something like that, maybe.
Whatever. You're fine.
So that movie comes out. The first off, the dick and fart jokes got really bad, lewd wise. But
that was like skids and mud flaps or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing. As soon as Optimus Prime started, he would interrogate, they would corner a bad guy. He would interrogate him, get the information, and then he would just straight up kill him. So here he is. Optimus Prime is doing the most unheroic thing. Yeah. And in that moment, I'm like, okay, I think I'm done with this franchise. And so I moved the hell on.
Because that's not my Optimus
That's
Prime.
That's not
arc of-
Optimus. That is not the
of
Optimus. I
vilifying
grew up with the
Optimus
comic books.
Prime.
I grew up with the cartoons. I grew up with the toys. You know, and it's like, nope. Okay, so moving on. Now, the second character. Let me just make this other point.
Yeah.
The second character, for the sake of trying to sell movie tickets, right? Tried to build a franchise. The second character who got completely screwed over was Rambo. Okay, so the very first movie, it's called First Blood. And it's the title of the movie is taken directly from the novel written by a guy named David Morrell. Fantastic novel. If you ever get a chance, it's really hard to find, but if you can get an old copy of it, read that sucker. But in that movie, it talks about a guy who went to Vietnam. He comes home, and all he wants to do is just live his life and try to make sense of life now that he's been through the hell that was Vietnam. Well, he can't do that because he gets picked on by all the different, the different people in town, the police department. Everybody's picking on him for being this hippie, this long-haired hippie, and this and that. And so he snaps, and it's like this big story about him having PTSD and having to deal with stuff. But he's also trying to protect himself against these, and it spirals out of control.
Yeah.
Get to the end. And so there's two endings to this movie, and a lot of people may not know this. The first ending was the original ending actually came directly from the pages of the comic book. I mean, not comic book, the novel. It should be a comic. But it came from the pages in the novel. Spoilers to any of those of you out there. But he actually commits suicide.
Yeah.
And that is how the story is supposed to end. But because that Hollywood back in the day was wanting to turn this into some type of franchise because of the initial screenings and the initial kind of like take on that part, they had a separate ending that they put in place so that he could go on and do all the other Rambo movies that would come after that. Right. And so that was the first, like, that again, that's an old one, but that was a decision that would take a character away from what his original story was supposed to be, who he originally was. And what they did was they turned him into this warmongering monster of a man. I'm not going to say that he lacked the character, because we see throughout the movies he has a certain character to himself. Okay, I'm not going to not going to diminish that. But the fact that he goes out there and he becomes this war hawking guy on the warpath for America, F yeah, that kind of whole thing. Doing these black ops missions and stuff. Yeah. Taking out the bad guy, blah blah blah. It just he got lost. Who John Rambo got lost in all of that corporate. Let's make a franchise out of this.
That certainly happens, and that's I think that's part of the problem that's why, again, to wrap things up, our heroes lose touch. And I think they lose touch because
the writers forget where they're going.
They forget where and they look at the source material and maybe they can't connect with.
It's about the money.
It's not our heroes that lose touch. It's the talent that's working on them.
I agree. I agree.
Because there's still some phenomenal comics out there. Just hold on to those. Those are the good ones.
Yeah. And that's why you see a lot of these people that work in the mainstream that have been quieted or stifled by the woke culture, coming out and going independent. You see a lot of independent. Some of the best books you're ever going to read are going to be independent right now.
Right now.
There is a new renaissance in comics.
There is.
And it's in the independent publishing realm.
You ain't going to see that on the comic media sites.
No, you're not.
You're not going to see any mention of that. You hear mention of that on people talking to people, just like we're doing here.
Yeah, if you go to what is it, CBD or whatever it's called,
CBR, Comic Book Resource,
CBD.
CBR.
Not quite that resourceful anymore. No.
Not resourceful at all.
No.
And they only talk about what they want to talk about. Mm-hmm. They've become the whole reason why Gamergate became a thing was because these news outlets were giving skewed reviews for games intentionally. It was all a money racket, and they were getting kickbacks, and fans were like, "No, we're done. We're going to YouTube with this." And that Gamergate sparked Comicsgate. And like it's all been a consumer revolt is what it is. And the reason why they hate it is because the dollars left. That's what happened. The dollars left.
Yeah.
And what you're seeing out in the wild is better than what they're talking about in the mainstream. All they're talking about is regurgitating what's happened in the mainstream. If all you're doing is listening to CBR or one of these other stations, the approved stations, because they do mainstream, if all you're reading is Wizard Magazine, guess what? You're narrowing your scope of good quality stuff that's out there.
Yep.
And hopefully,
Wizard what?
Right.
Exactly.
Hopefully
They
today,
folded years ago.
You see
Hopefully-
where they went. Yeah.
yeah, we have some incredibly talented people that watch this show, and I'm hoping that some of you have navigated your way or found your way following some of these talented people that watch the show and gotten a hold of Nerd Bacon number 29 today. And hopefully
Good show.
this conversation will spark you like it does me. So we like I said, about the hour and a half mark, and then about the 2:17 mark, we wind up wrapping up, right? So we have these certain marks that we normally hit because it naturally happens in the flow of the conversation. But what I do when I leave here is I go make something better. I go write something, I go draw something, I go make something better. I've complained about it, I got it out of my system. But now we've had this flow of ideas and we've figured out why it's not working out there. Why the thing we don't like it. Now we can go make something that does it different. We can say that was their mistake. I'm not going to make the same mistake. I'm not going to let my hero lose touch. I'm going to keep my hero in touch with people that want to read it. I'm going to make something that people are going to want to look up to, that people are going to want to be interested in. Like Marv V, he wants to write a character that's dark, that's a dark hero. Write that. Let us enjoy that.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, I like writing Trash Man. Here's what's fun. People are like, oh, you're Trash Man, right? I'm like, no. If I'm any character in there, I'm definitely not Trash Man. Trash Man is modeled after a friend of mine who has this personality. Always does what's right. Doesn't matter. If it's
your
the right
hair.
choice, he does it.
But your hair is so similar.
That's only because I was drawing his hair for so long. I was like, if you look at my old
And
haircut,
beard.
it was completely different.
Yeah.
It was short and spiky, and that was
Okay.
my old haircut. And then I started drawing this for so long. I was like, I kind of like his hair, and I'm like, can you? And I actually showed him, but can you cut my hair like this?
Do you really?
I
love
did.
it.
I did. I kid you
Love
not.
it.
I want the
Let's
skin
be
fade.
honest.
I said I want
It's
a
an
skin
improved
fade.
version of
I
Volk's
tried
like-
that once. Anyway.
I wish I could do that for Chrome Dog, but no.
Right? Yeah, but can you make my hair metal and
Yeah,
run down my
let's
back?
make
I
my
mean,
hair metal and just long going down my back. Can we
Yeah.
have that? No.
Yeah, but so
Halloween's coming.
So I hope that Halloween's coming. I hope that you can gain inspiration from all of this.
Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
And BA, you say that heroes need realism, but they also need here's what we need: some escapism as well.
Yeah, you go back and you look at the comics that actually sold and how many they sold. You'll see there wasn't a whole lot of realism there. So, and I hate to break it to you, but superheroes aren't real.
No.
May I
They're
humbly
they're
suggest-
just not. You go look at those old Plastic Men, the old Captain Marvels, the stuff that sold tons back in the day. They were the most outlandish, fantasy-oriented, whimsical things you can imagine. You know,
It's fun.
the strive for realism really comes out of Dark Knight, and Dark Knight is more, what's the proper word? I want to say nihilism, perhaps, more than realism.
Yes.
There needs to be a believability about your heroes.
And there needs to be a spectrum. There needs to be a high level of entertainment. That's
Yeah.
the big thing. There needs to be more whimsical characters out there, more goofy, fun characters, more entertainment in general out
More
there
hero about
across a
heroes,
wide
more,
amount
yeah.
of spectrum. Yeah.
The other thing that's important, guys, fantasy and superheroes are a type of fantasy, whether we want to
Exactly.
admit it or not.
Yep.
Fantasy is vital, not because it tells us that there are dragons, but it tells us that they could be slain. That's what we have to remember. We need the heroes to inspire us to be better. Maybe not all of them, but those aren't heroes.
Yeah.
Part of being a hero, whether it's super or not, is that the viewer, the reader, feels a compulsion to do, yeah. You know what? I want to be more like Cap. At the end of the day, I want to be more like Cap. I want to be more like Soups.
Mm-hmm.
And
What would they
we've
do
gotten
here?
to the point where people respond
What would Parker
to
do in this?
identifying with those kind of characters as cringy or, outdated. And that's part of why we have so many problems. We need to allow people to be good and stop treating goodness as a handicap or as a delusion or a fallacy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of what, is the root of what I think is wrong with a lot of media. And it's being reflected. What we do in fiction reflects in reality and back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And if all the mainstream fiction is darkness and hatred
I know that
tearing apart, it's going to get reflected back in reality and back and forth.
I know
we
that-
can
I know-
change that.
I know that BA is late to the show here. We have talked about this in length multiple times that it's okay to have a splash of some of these things. But what's happening is the realism in Watchmen that made Watchmen great. It was different than what was there. Now what we've done is we've turned everything into Watchmen.
Yeah.
Everything
Oh,
is that.
I still disagree with that. I think it's all Dark Knight that really did it, as
Yeah,
opposed
yeah,
to
well,
Watchmen.
yeah, true,
Watchmen was more deconstruction and
Right.
actually looking at the archetypes of the different versions of superheroes out there. Dark Knight just tore everything down into dark.
So are you? You're talking. You're talking.
the guise of realism.
You're talking about the Christopher Nolan movie, The Dark Knight, right?
No, Frank Miller's.
No, I'm talking about Frank Miller's comic
Return of
for
the Dark Knight. Yeah, Return of the Dark Knight.
Return of the Dark Knight.
Yeah,
the
I
Dark
just want to
Knight.
make sure that we
Dark
know what
Knight,
we're
Dark
talking
Knight,
about here.
whatever.
It was
Yeah.
great. It was a breath of fresh air. I enjoyed it. But now we've turned everything into that.
It was
And
a
it's-
great
it's a-
Elseworld story that should have been left solely there.
I love it.
instead of
I love the
turning
smell
into
of
the
the barbecue.
mass amount of
I don't want to breathe it.
imitations that have come out since.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Yeah, I like how you said that, Nick. I love the smell of the barbecue. I just don't want to eat it.
I don't want to breathe it.
Oh,
Yeah. No, it's the whole. Once in a while, you walk by. I'm a fat guy. I love the smell of a barbecue.
we can't have that barbecue all the time
the
for every
time.
meal. We
You
need
know-
ice cream. We need cake. We need vegetables.
We need
in
other
order
things.
to have a fully rounded
I
nutritional meal.
love the way your dietary leanings are.
There
Yeah,
you go.
we need ice cream. We need cake, and that's
Here's
you know.
the
Tacos. We need
Here's the
more
thing:
tacos.
if all you want to consume is that's fine. That's fine.
Don't force it on
But
everybody.
don't force it on everybody else, and don't make
Yeah.
everything that wasn't that make it that now.
Yeah.
yep.
Because
We've
that's
got
all that
barbecue
you
for
want to do,
far
or all
too
you know how to do.
It's that one
I'm
guy
tired
at
of
the
the sound.
party who has to put hot sauce on everything.
Yeah.
No, I'm still cold serious. I like some spice when it's time. But that does, there's always that guy.
You're one of
I
those.
put hot sauce on my cereal, and
I put hot sauce and honey on a biscuit. I put
Uh-huh.
hot sauce and syrup on my pancakes and waffles.
Dang,
put
I
hot
should
sauce on
try
my
that.
eggs.
well,
heck
you're
yeah.
also post
Heck
COVID,
yeah.
so taste effects.
I'll
are
have to try that.
Because believe it,
Peanut
or
butter.
my
Peanut
wife
butter
is
on
that way.
pancakes. That's
She's
it.
really
Ooh.
dialing up
Peanut
the hot
butter
sauce.
and pickle
Peanut
sandwich.
butter and maple syrup. Yeah.
But you're not putting it on anybody else's plate.
No.
No,
These-
just mine.
A lot
No.
of people are running
Yeah,
around.
no.
I love this metaphor because it's so they're putting hot sauce on their plate and then telling you you're a horrible person if you don't put hot sauce on your plate.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, dude, I have ulcers. I do not
I
want.
kind of actually don't want everyone to have the hot sauce because then there's more hot sauce for me.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
So if there's something that I like,
Yeah,
I kind of like it not being mainstream
Right,
and being
right.
niche.
Yeah, no,
Right.
that is a
I like it being niche. You know,
real thing because I felt that same way. It was really weird when Sweet Baby Ray's was the barbecue
Right.
sauce everywhere.
it's like, why is this now
Because it
everywhere?
used to be you had to go specific places to get it,
And it was fun to hunt it down.
yeah. Now that
Yeah.
being said, I won't turn down Sweet Baby Ray's dang near anything.
No.
But kind of the point
Hashtag
is
not
here,
sponsored yet. Sweet Baby Ray's, please reach out to Luke.
right?
Yeah, just,
now
call us.
I got upset when RPGs became kind of mainstream
Yeah.
Yeah.
because I knew as soon as they became mainstream,
Yep.
they were going to lose the heart and soul that was in there.
Yeah.
and that's what's happened. We're losing a lot of heart and soul.
Well,
and so hopefully those that find this show will be able to navigate themselves to better storytelling, because I know a lot of creatives,
100%,
or a lot of creatives watch this show. I don't know what it is about. Maybe it's the talent that we have on the panel, the people that I'm able to get to come slum it on my channel. But
slum it.
But
Slum
I
it.
mean, we
It's
have
just a good slot for me.
We have a great collection of thought and talent, and it draws people in to watch it and to learn from it. And so I hope that people will learn from it, maybe be inspired, to do those things.
There's a lot of sincerity here.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's one thing. We're sincere. We're honest. Like, I show my scars so people can learn they can heal. That mentality. Mm-hmm. And that's what we need. This is what keeps this from. Think about all the other shows about a lot of, like, a TV show that talks about comics or video games or whatever. It's a big splashy affair where they have all the fancy glitz and glamour, and then someone very pretty reads like this about, aren't we excited about whatever we're being paid to be excited about?
Yeah, it's like, I'm not buying it. Yeah. It's like the guy that, that can't open a milk carton. I don't know how to, and then the milk
God!
It's like, dude, we know you.
Does this ever happen to you? Oh no, my bottle, it's exploded.
It's like, no, it's never happened. Stop being an idiot.
Well, the thing, BA, don't mistake the market. The direct market has eroded down to a base demographic that everybody has catered to. That's the big thing with Marvel and DC, and then other other people have come in and mutated that into into turning into soapboxing. Go back and read Watchmen. It takes place on a separate universe for a reason. It's a whole different tone, and there's a lot of nuance and just hardcore intelligence in. And I don't love everything Alan Moore has done, but I understand Watchmen. And on the other hand, go back and read Return of the Dark Knight and see it for the dark, depressing, nihilist, just subversive, and it's also an Elseworld story. It was supposed to be, but it's not anymore.
What you've stumbled
That's
into
the problem.
The preservation of canon matters. And if you're going to write a new book, which you can do else. Marvel's one thing Marvel's great at is, we're going to write the Mangaverse, and this is Earth.
Oh my gosh, you brought that out. That out.
See, here's a big difference in Watchmen. When Watchmen was first pitched, Dick Giordano and the people up at DC knew what the work was about, and they told Moore at the time, don't use these characters, because he pitched them an idea, because they had just acquired all the rights to all the Charlton characters.
Yep.
So he pitched them an idea. Night Owl was supposed to be Blue Beetle. Ozymandias was supposed to be Son of Vulcan. There are all of these because they all fit all of these great archetypes, and because they had the sense, DC at the time had the sense to tell Moore, don't use these Charlton characters, because the way your story goes, we're not going to be able to ever use them again.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Do something, take that idea and make new icons. That's what we should all be doing out there. If the icons aren't serving us,
take your idea and make something new with it. Don't take it and jam it into something else.
The eroding thing about Dark Knight is that didn't happen with Miller. Miller intentionally took those icons and deconstructed them. Mm-hmm. And pretty much destroyed all sense of whimsy and fantasy and superheroes.
It was refreshing at the time.
It was groundbreaking
especially for an audience that had been maturing.
Yeah.
It was amazing at the time.
The big fault in the companies is that they took that idea and took it to the far extreme, and then you ended up with Infinity Crisis and all of this other.
I love pulled pork,
nihilistic material.
I do. Yeah. I love pulled pork. I love smoking the butt out on the smoker. I love it. Right. The problem is, and I love the way it makes the house smell and all that. Just like what Nick was saying. I like it. But I can't have it every day.
Yeah.
I would get sick of it every day. And that's the thing.
That's why Dark Knight sold the amount that it sold when it was first out, because it was such a huge change of pace.
Yeah.
Now we're getting the same barbecue over.
And that's why manga is killing Western comics, because it's a smorgasbord of option.
We
don't have it in our books.
The big thing,
and it's not all superheroes.
The big thing with manga that a lot of us fail to note is that this has come off of decades, literally decades, of the art form of sequential art being looked at and studied seriously by the Japanese culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They know what works, what doesn't work, what's entertaining, what's not entertaining, how to tell a story, and they have severe criticism. I mean, as if it was in our area or our culture, we'd be looking at every novelist the same way. Stephen King doesn't write this, but he writes this really good. That era of criticism has gone on for decades for sequential art, for manga in Japan. These people are more than trained professionals. People live and breathe this material and are respected over there for doing so. Yeah. Here in the States, we don't get that kind of respect. We don't get that kind of admiration. And in a lot of ways, our artwork has never been taken nearly as seriously as manga has over there in Japan. And a lot of that has come over here, and it's glommed onto by the audience because it's that good. Yeah. It's that simple. They're willing to, I keep saying, they're willing to read a book in reverse in order to be entertained. That says, that to me, that says it all. That says it all. Yeah, because they're that trained. If we had been growing up, if we grew up in a culture that treated sequential art as a really true art form, we'd be there at that same level, and we'd be looking at sequential art covering all cultures. And because we're such a huge melting pot here in this country, we'd have all cultures, all viewpoints, and we'd have the variety that manga has now. And we absolutely need to have that.
Yeah, we absolutely do.
Preach it, brother.
Yeah, I think that's a good place to kind of bring this to an end.
Yes.
There's a lot that we can work from, and somewhere where we can go. Let's look at the things. We don't have to be manga to sell books, but we do need to look at the variety. We need to look at the craftsmanship, and we need to look at how we approach sequential storytelling. If we don't think it's important, then no one else will think it's important.
And as artists and writers, we need to be looking at everything and knowing that's the only way you're really going to know where the gold is and where the crap is.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
Sometimes you have to get down and dirty in order to.
You got to write more than just what you like.
Yeah.
And who knows? You might like something that you didn't think you like because you never tasted it, you never experienced it. So definitely get out there. Justin, tell them where they can find you and any parting thoughts.
Okay. Well, so yeah, you can find me on Twitter at Justin K Sweet. I'm also on Facebook. I've got both the my own Justin Sweet page. I believe it's Justin Sweet 000. There's a story behind that, maybe for another time. And then also Agent Zero Comics has its own page. So be sure to come by and like and follow and all that stuff for when I can get Chrome Dog #1 all fired up and we can actually get a decent fan base. It's kind of hard to have a fan base when I don't have a lot of stuff to show yet. So we're getting there. We're gonna get there. And I'm really looking forward to how issue #1 is shaping up. I'm working on the last few pages now, and so I can't wait to share it. Also on the horizon, we've got this big collaborative venture out of obscurity. Kind of pay attention, and because you're going to see more and more of that. You're going to hear us talk more and more of that in the coming weeks and months. I have no doubt. But as far as final thoughts go, just write what you know, write what you love. And I think I have a story that's kind of brewing in the background of my own imagination, and it's spawned by a character that I recently played in a tabletop game experience. So that's kind of cool too. So and to be honest, tabletop gaming is what inspired me to even get into writing this stuff. A lot of what I'm writing here came from campaign prep in a completely different way. I'm just kind of retooling and shaping the world that I'm creating now based on a lot of the stuff that I did for my people around my table. I just don't want those stories and those ideas to die with us as we go on through life and think fondly. I want there to be a testament after I'm gone for people to grouse over having to do with my version of a Dark Knight or whatever. So anyway, that's my piece.
I'm Randy Zimmerman. You can find me on Facebook. You can email me anytime at thezimcast@gmail.com. I am part of the Indie Comics Network and have a number of shows over there, including the Zimcast, which is on at 8 p.m., where we talk seriously about the business and opinionatedly about the business at the same time. Then on Friday mornings, early morning, we've started a new show called Comics by Night, where we talk about the nuts and bolts and the mechanics of making sequential art. And with such people as Glenn B. Fleming, who's on here, and Russ Leach, Charles Santino. And tomorrow morning, we should have a visit by Brian K. Morris, if he can set his alarm and get up early enough. And we'll talk a little bit more about writing. Then on Sunday mornings, we do Sunday Funnies at 9 a.m. And that's where we talk about the books that we love, the stuff that we love to read, and keep reading, the stuff that put a gleam in our eye and made us want to do what we do in this business, the stuff that we love and enjoy. That's Sunday Funnies. And also over at ICN, Indie Comics Network, I'm starting to put up a series of small short videos where we teach cartooning that anybody can follow. All you need is a pencil and eraser, a little tenacity, and some calm and patience. Don't get frustrated. That's the big key when you're learning how to draw. Want to teach everybody how they too can create their characters just off of basic shapes. You don't have to be the best artist. You just have to be the best storyteller. And when it comes to writing, what Justin said is very true. Write what you know. But the key there is to know as much as you can. And as a writer, you should be naturally curious about everything. You go down those rabbit holes on YouTube for a reason. And you should be, as a writer, you should be keeping note, mental or physically, of the different things out there, the different places, the different subjects, because you never know when a stray fact or a stray idea is going to spark a great story, especially if you're a great creative person. So don't just write what you know as much as you can.
Absolutely. Very good.
Hi, folks. Nick Tucker here. I almost said with the Historical Fencing Guild, I have reflex. But I am the author of The Simple Sword and the Fighting Axe. Also, The Simple Spear. My copy is coming in. The ongoing series where I've spent the last 20 years teaching people the basics of swordsmanship. I'm also a game designer for the Big Stompy Robots line of games, where you can easy tactics games with mechs or whatever you already have. Rules light, lore heavy, great fun, and my copy go? Haha! The Hybrids, the Sons of Gods, the role-playing game. This is the Quick Play Edition. You can get this at LukeStoneStudios.com. You can also get it from me if you see me somewhere. And I am a voice actor now on, the only thing I have to plug it right now is this is the script. Mike, Jimmy LaRoche de Bronze, Life of Korra. Life on Korra. I am actually in that. You can find me at ntalkert on Twitter. Go to www.nicholastockert.com for almost all my links. The site's a little dated. I am working on it. But most importantly for this, aside from the Monday, Wednesday, Friday, where you find me on Nevermind the Furthermore, which is a little more author-oriented, but we talk about creatives, independent creation, motivation, the mechanics of how we do what we do, and we support each other while doing a fair amount of plugs, because that's how I support people. Most importantly, for the purpose of this, I'm right here at 9 a.m. on Thursdays with Luke Stone for Nerd Bacon, where we get to talk about subjects like this. Now, I am on a one-man crusade against the mundane because I believe everybody has a story in them. And I believe that everybody has a chance to tell it. And I want you to tell your story. I want to help you do it. I believe in building up people. If you build up the bottom, the whole pyramid gets taller. So, I'm very appreciative of Luke Stone for helping, spread that message. Also, they were talking about Out of Obscurity. Luke has my humble, and I do mean humble, attempt at a graphic novel that I had started while my hands were still in the mostly meat hook phase. And he's going to be retooling that as the first part of Paul Bunyan Kaiju Slayer, which I may then revisit later if I can get my skills up to the level where I feel it's appropriate. But you need to watch this Out of Obscurity project that's coming. I plug a lot. I talk about projects. But this is one of those where it is going to be a sampler. It is a one-stop buffet of some of the best independent creators bringing public domain characters to light in new ways so that it highlights the artists, it highlights the writers, it highlights the ideas, and renews the IPs. So that, if people show a lot of interest, they know, hey, let's make this a full book. Or, hey, this is going to be a full book. Here's your intro sampler. So this is a real opportunity, not just for us, but it's an opportunity for you to get to know us and a bunch of the great people in the chat. Before I wave over to Luke and he lets me off, I want to put a huge thank you to the chat. We've talked about some very powerful, important concepts, and some of it can be very emotional. And that consistently, this chat is civil. It is well spoken, well organized, and well thought out. Even if I disagree with you on a given point, I respect just about everybody I've seen come through this chat and say their piece. They don't always get brought up, but I almost always read the chat while I'm watching it go. So thank you for your participation. And thank you guys for liking this, sharing it around, because obviously these are important ideas. And yes, I want to get Luke press. I want Luke to be built up because I think he's an important person with important art and an important idea. His approach means something. Mm-hmm. And everything you guys do to help him, to help Randy, to help Justin, and even my silly self, does just that. It helps. We are at war with an algorithm. I tend to step back when the culture war conversation gets out too hard, but I will flat out say that the algorithm is the adversary of free thought and free communication, because it's harder to dial in your ads. And I think the message is far more important than the advertisements that they tack on. So please share this around. Talk about it. And if you don't like what we're saying, if you disagree, please don't go blabbering on whatever media about it negatively. Come to us. Explain reasonably what you think, because we're all reasonable people here mostly. And if you have a counterpoint, let's discuss this. This is not a debate. This is not about, we're not kids in the playground going, well, Superman beats up Batman. No, we're trying to get better and help society get it better by improving ourselves and helping you improve. So thank you for being part of this weekly journey into that. I hope it's fun. I know it's probably a lot different than some people expect, but that's okay too. Anything else you need, Luke?
That's it, man. I'm Luke Stone. You can find me at lukestonstudios.com. I also placed the link in the chat. For Rift Riders, we are funding right now. It is a new story about some adventure in space and time. Our main character, Israel, is a nice little blend of a Doctor Who and Peter Pan type character. And we are pretty excited about this book and the possibilities of where it's going to go. We're looking at right now there's going to be at least 3 books published, probably more, depending on the response of the fans and the readers. So we are currently funding. We are getting very, very close to 50%, and we need your help to get there. This is a fixed goal. I am not the artist, and I'm not the writer. I came up with the concept, and then I partnered with my normal editor, Piper Steed, who wrote the book, and the artist is John Dillard. Very, very good. This is kind of like a Teen Titans look kind of thing, not the Teen Titans Go, but like the good one. And so it's kind of got a real kind of fun vibe to it, but very enjoyable. Very enjoyable. I'm looking forward to producing this book. We are funding it to pay for production. This is the first time I've done this. Normally the book is done before I crowdfund, but because I'm paying so many people for this, I need your money to pay for it.
Nice.
So come along, help me out. I would appreciate it. You will not be disappointed. I promise you. The Luke Stone seal of approval is going to be on it. Everything that I put into hybrids and everything else I work on is definitely going into this. In fact, it might actually be better than some of the stuff I normally do because I'm upping the game so much with this project. I definitely want you to check it out. So check that out. Make sure to go by lukestonestudios.com. Sign up for the mailing list. Give us a like, a share, hit the bell so that you can be notified. Subscribe, maybe even consider being a channel member. Membership helps us out very much, and you'll get extra content and special things and chats throughout the course of a week and a month. And then last but not least, Nerd 10 for 10% off your Gemini orders. Check that out. Remember,
which is a really good value, folks. It's really better. Is. 10%. It's quite substantial. When you
save a lot of money. You save a lot of money that way. Something I want to also point out that I don't think Luke mentioned is over on that Rift Writers campaign. There is a great tier over there for all of the new Arrow comics that have come out. If you haven't seen those, HeroBot Zero, Paragon, and Calico are all written by me. HeroBot Zero is mostly all me. It's about a 3-foot tall giant robot who fights big monsters and defends his city. Paragon is a superhero story the way I want to see it done. And Calico is a high fantasy tale that's a lot of fun, meant to be a lot of fun to read. Yep. And as well as Hybrids 1 is also available in that tier. Sin Killer 1 with Marv that was just here is also in that tier, as well as Rift Writers #1. So you get this wide variety of comics, great books, all with the Arrow Comics banner on it, just for one price. It's a great deal.
Eight number ones.
Express that
for
enough.
$50.
Only Death Can Save Us is also there with Russ Leach, and we're going to be finishing off Only Death Can Save Us in the same format in the future as we go along. There'll be a lot more Arrow comics come out. What a great way to start and see the wide variety that we want to do with this company. There's so much more coming out from Arrow Comics. I honestly can't tell you everything that we've got planned for next year, but it's going to be big.
Yeah, but talk about variety.
Yeah. By the way, Chrome Dog is going to be Arrow Comics as well. So and
the Out of Obscurity anthology.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, not to mention, all of the other Chrome Dogs, like other titles that are going to
Wait a second. It's not an Arrow Comics chat per se, but let's just say we know where quality is, okay? And so
go over and take a look at that tier. It's more than worth it. The books that you
definitely
get,
and in that
really great stuff.
In that tier, you're going to find a whole bunch of arrows to put in your quiver. So let's make it happen.
God, that was cheesy, but I love it.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Remember, try to build up more than you tear down. We talked about a lot of tearing down. Build up more than you tear down. Leave the wood pile a little bit higher than you found it. And by all means, please, let's be careful out there.
Let's be careful out there. Let's be careful out there. We had a 187 at the 7-Eleven on the corner of 4th and Main. 2 Caucasian sounds of the male persuasion put a bullet through the cashier's brain. Moving on, I see it 211, half a dozen 459, 218 W's a GTA, several miscellaneous crimes. Homicide, arson, robbery, rape, everybody gets their share.